Welcome to What's in a Game schedule day. Woo! On today's show, the NBA schedule is finally released. We are breaking down the message the league is sending about the Eastern Conference, the national TV hierarchy, and what this all means for the new look Denver Nuggets in the 2025-26 season. Stay tuned. Welcome back to What's in a Game. I'm Grace Jean here with my co-host Will Jones. How are you doing today on this hectic day, Will?
I'm fine. I'm interested to look at the schedule. I haven't even looked at it. So I'm going to be reacting.
Well, literally
live.
Just dropped a few minutes ago. So we'll just go right through the programming notes so we can dive in to the show. The NBA schedule came out now 19 minutes ago. Long time listeners and viewers of the show will know I like to do extensive preparation for each show and have all my notes ready for everything we're going to do. But today we're going to do something a little bit different since the full schedule anyway, came out not even just today, but literally a few minutes ago. I've got a series of questions that I have about the NBA schedule, and in particular, the Denver Nuggets schedule. And we're going to just answer those questions live, right? So you guys are going to go through the process that I would have gone through by myself in prep live on the show as we get into the nitty-gritty of the NBA schedule, just live on stream. It's going to be an adventure. Please do us a favor and hit the like and subscribe buttons. It really helps us out with the algorithm as we try to grow the channel. We're just over 1,100 subs now. Well, I don't know if you saw that. That was pretty exciting. Our next goal is 1,500 subs. That would be a great one to hit by the end of the summer. But I can hear the dog clawing at the door there. Anyway. I hope he's okay. Someone will look at him. Sorry, a little distracting. So help us out. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and hit the notification bell. But anyway, let's get started. So, Will, before we dive into the schedule, and we will spend the vast majority of the show on this, we have a couple of news items that dropped in the last week since our last show. The first being that we saw Jokic play basketball, right? Serbia versus Greece in the friendlies. And Serbia won 76-66. Giannis didn't play in this game, and Greece is kind of like very, very shorthanded without him. They're probably not one of the stronger teams in the Eurobasket tournament as a whole, or that will be participating in Eurobasket. So that Serbia one was not a surprise. Will, what was your general impression of Team Serbia in this game? And did anything surprise you about how Jokic looked or how he played in this game?
No, nothing surprised me too much about Jokic. He looked like he was trying on defense more than maybe I would think.
True.
But he always,
especially for this was like his second friendly, and otherwise, right, to our knowledge, he hasn't touched a basketball in months.
Yeah. I mean, he was up on the level like he always is, but he was working pretty hard to recover off motions, and he was moving his feet really quickly, and like he does the best that he can.
Got a couple kicked balls.
Yeah, the Jokic special. Yeah, I thought he did good. Like, he always puts effort in when he plays for Serbia, even in these types of games. And offensively, like, he's always going to do what he does. I like the fact that he hit the soundboard shuffle just so that he still got that elite skill and the touch. And like, yeah, he missed a couple little layups and like had to do the rebound put back tip shots, but that's not a big deal. But yeah, I was more just kind of surprised, not necessarily surprised, but just interested in seeing how it worked as a whole with Team Serbia. And like, Jokic just is Jokic, but I was interested to see how that affected Serbia specifically, like versus the Nuggets, and how it can look different or similar at times.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how Serbia used him. It felt, compared to the Olympics, like they were spamming the post a lot more with, at least in this game, right? And I've been told by our Serbian friends, such as Miroslav, who had me on Serbian Corner last weekend right after this game. So check that out to hear more analysis about this over on the DNVR YouTube channel. That they're gonna that the Pesic will try out different things throughout these warm-up games and just kind of throw stuff out there. We saw in the Olympics, like Team Serbia played very differently when they played Team USA, for example, in the group stage versus in the knockout rounds. Just in terms of their approach to the game, for like the main thing that stood out to me in those two games that they played against Team USA was there was a much greener light for shooters in that second game, which is how Serbia built up that, initial lead in the first place. That guys were making their shots, but they were taking a lot of them like they were ready to fire in a way that was not necessarily their approach in that first game. And so I wouldn't take too much away from that approach in this game, but it was just interesting to see because that was not something that I'd seen Serbia do in terms of spamming the post with Jokic to that degree. Poppin doesn't feel like Serbia wants to. I mean, probably not. They need somebody. The thing with Team Serbia is I'm totally fine with them not using Jokic as a spacer because they don't have any other good interior finishers on that team. So they need somebody to be on the inside. An NBA team would perhaps be less dependent on that because there are other players that can kind of not just get into the paint, but also finish there. But actually, to that note, Alexa Avramovic, my favorite little pesky, Serbian defender, he actually had a good finishing game at the rim in addition to his defense in this one. Mm-hmm. So that was really fun to see. The defense, I agree with you. They were the Jokic was a lot more engaged defensively than I expected him to be in this warm-up game. And I thought the whole team was, at least for long stretches of this game. And you saw in their most dominant stretches against Greece, where it's this team's not in our weight class. It was really easy for them to put the clamps on. And they kind of defended, honestly, a lot like OKC in terms of how aggressive they were on the perimeter and just playing every passing line, and they were willing to give up open corner threes. The problem was when they got to those stretches where they weren't necessarily as engaged and focused as a group, and then Greece was getting corner three after open corner three after open corner three, which is a thing I've kind of wondered about when it comes to these pressure defenses and the level of focus and engagement, consistent focus and engagement it takes to keep that up without giving up a lot of good stuff. But anyway, that was a warm-up game, but we are so starved for basketball that it was that was a big one to get to see.
Yeah, I mean, as far as them playing through the post, I don't know if it's just because you're going to trust Jokic to do that, and he was just felt so much bigger than Greece, and so did all of Team Serbia. To me, at least, I felt like Jokic could kind of get whatever he wanted and toss Greece players around. They were fronting him aggressively at times, which
there was nobody on Greece with the size to deal with him. They tried being aggressive with him inside. They forced some turnovers. You could tell the scouting report and the instruction to the Greek bigs was just beat him up, and it it didn't. The best thing that they could do was force turnovers because they weren't going to stop him once he caught the ball inside and then went to score.
Yeah,
it was more.
Making that
he actually missed
difficult.
some bunnies, so it was more him beating himself. But other than that, they were "There's nothing else we can do with this guy."
Yeah, but I thought Jokic had good screens on the perimeter too that caused some back cuts and interesting plays, or that allowed an open corner three that, if Serbia looked for it, they got. There were times where that was open and they still tried to force the pass to Jokic inside, which then did sometimes cause a turnover. But I'm always interested to see how they handle those entry passes, just because we saw that with OKC in that series, how, Alex Caruso is obviously a much different defender, and OKC has so many different defenders than, a Greece team would have, of course. But sometimes it's frustrating to see how difficult it can be to get the ball to Jokic or the post. Sometimes Serbia had amazing passes to him in the post, and I was like, wow, that was great. I love that. And then there'd be, one that wasn't as great and would be a turnover. But for the most part, I thought they did pretty good. And I liked Jokic's screening and back cuts the back cuts that allowed other players on the team. So I thought like overall they were pretty impressive. Like I like their ball movement and I like the defense. So, if you're a Team Serbia fan, I love watching them. They're a good, fun watch.
To your point about the entry passes and how difficult it was to get the ball to Jokic inside, and like despite that, they were still like pretty dominant, like kind of when they wanted to be at points in this game. They still got like a ton of points in the paint, despite the entire strategy by Greece being like, let's take away the paint as much as possible, which is like, it very much felt like watching last year's Nuggets in that sense. And to your point about the coverages too, and this isn't really an OKC thing so much as we saw like the Lakers do this at points last season. Who were some of the other teams that were employing this like really aggressive like denial, fronting, and bracket coverage on Jokic down the stretch of last season? Because I know there were a few that copied LA after that. What was it, like a March game after the All-Star break? That was something that Greece was doing. It was like, this is all we like can hope to be able to, slow him down, is like try to make it really difficult to get the ball to him in the first place. And I do have a new agenda when it comes to entry passes, because I do think it's important to have a good entry passer or like a good entry pass, but it doesn't really mean anything if the big isn't sealing properly, or if the post defender is just good enough to make that seal not as good. If they're kind of pushing Jokic further out, making the passing angle more difficult, or like making Jokic's sort of catch angle weird so that the pass is weird and then like things aren't synced up. And I think that there's an interesting dynamic going on with that more that I saw in this game than necessarily bad entry passes. Like, okay, the interior defense was, and that's something that I've been thinking with the Nuggets too, is like, yeah, there are definitely better entry passers than others, but it's not like any of the entry passes when people are complaining about them were like easy. And part of the way it's like part of the dynamic there with, is an entry pass easy or not, is like, how is the defense defending the big, and how well is the big sort of countering that to create like a good seal of that defender to keep them away from the ball so that they can catch it cleanly.
Yeah, and that's what I mean too, is just like watching that. If someone's bodying Jokic, whether it's a really good front defender or it's just a smaller guy who's just trying to make life difficult for him, even though Jokic is so much taller than him and he can put his hands up and he can catch a ball with one hand, because his hands are so great, you still have to make that pass and put it in the right spot. And I think, players on the perimeter can see that, Jokic is, being bodied, so they got to put it in a good spot. And I'm just like interested to see when people can do that and when they can't. Like, it's not like it's necessarily so easy. Sure. It's easier than other times, but
and often like the reason it's hard is that it's not necessarily the right play, but it's the play that the players on the court can make. And what I mean by that is, you remember when we were talking about the Thunder Pacers series, and there was that play, I don't remember which game it was, where I think Case and Wallace is on Pascal, and someone comes over to like front Pascal and off of Benedict Mathurin, and Mathurin is able to like, oh, he's getting fronted and they're denying me the post entry, I'm going to drive. And he had the opportunity for a layup, doesn't go for it, but kicks out to Obi Toppin for a 3. There aren't a lot of guys on Team Serbia that I necessarily want to put the ball on the floor and make that kind of play. So I think they're just like, shoot. And that's like shoot or figure out a way to get that entry pass in. Right.
Yeah,
exactly. Pop. And someone else just rotates and picks it off, because the entry passer isn't just worried about the player that's on the big, but like whoever's helping as well. Stefan Jovic was good, perhaps in that aspect. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with the final national team roster for Eurobasket, because there are a few cuts that they have to make to fit the roster requirements. But anyway, it's a very interesting game. There will be more. Team Serbia plays Czechia next. I think that is that next week? Hang on, I'm just going to pull up the schedule again real quick. So they have, I think, one more game before their Slovenia game. Oh, they have two. So they play Czechia in another friendly tomorrow. And then they have another one listed for Saturday. I don't know which or whether Jokic will play in both or neither. In addition to the final warm-up game that they have against Team Slovenia on the 21st. So, look out for those. Those will be interesting to see, especially because most of these teams are not in Serbia's group. So they may never play them again in the tournament, depending on what happens next. All right. Last news item before we get to the schedule. The Portland Trailblazers have agreed to be sold to Tom Dundon, owner of the Carolina Hurricanes, for the hockey fans out there, for just over, or not just over, but over $4 billion. That's how they frame these things. They never give you the exact numbers until the deal is final. Well, this actually makes Portland, Dallas, Minnesota, Boston, and the Los Angeles Lakers, that's 1/6 of the league, sold or agreed to be sold within the last 2.5 to 3 years. That seems like a lot of turnover in a very short span of time. We were just talking about this right before we went live. You didn't even know that the Blazers had gotten sold. Did you know the news that the Blazers were on the market? Because that was something that was announced, I think, within the last month or couple of months. So that was kind of hanging around in the background, but we didn't know when it was going to happen.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Is there any aspect of this that surprised you, like the number, the timing of this, or any of the other more recent franchise sales over the last couple of years?
No, I mean, maybe this trend of teams that are just being sold recently has desensitized me a little bit. I'm not surprised when someone wants to sell. They're going for a lot of money.
Right.
There's a lot of rich people that have the money to give. And I don't know how long the owners in Portland had the team before selling or what their situation is. But for the Lakers, selling made so much sense because she was, Jeannie Buss inherited the Lakers from her dad. It's not like she's some billionaire mogul type personality, and she doesn't have that background like a Steve Ballmer who buys the Clippers. And obviously that was a different circumstance because they were forcing them to sell. But a lot, yeah. And same with Boston. Teams are getting really expensive. Money's going up, even though there's TV deals and there's things where the league is going to make more money. I could see that these owners are seeing the dollar signs and ready to capitalize on it. And it's time for them to just things naturally turn over like this. So.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a sell high moment, and I don't think that necessarily means that franchise valuations are going to go down. But when you are one of the owners that doesn't necessarily have as much money as Steve Ballmer, for example, when you see the opportunity to sell for multiple billions of dollars, maybe you just kind of take it. Although it's not like a lot of these people got into sports to make money. So for the first one that comes to mind is the Mark Cuban example with Dallas. But in your first one that came to mind for you was the Buss family, and them having inherited that, and they're in it. It's we didn't actually buy this. Is this right for us? Maybe not. But for $10 billion, it could be not right for us, kind of thing, right? I would actually have loved to be a fly on the wall in the rooms where the Buss family was trying to decide whether to take this offer, because that was not Lakers are on the market. That situation reminds me of like Orlando goes to Memphis and says, we'll give you 4 first-round picks for Desmond Bane, and Memphis like can't say no. It felt like $1 billion was like a godfather offer for the Lakers, especially given the type of money that the Buss family is in, which is like not the same as other billionaires. They're the poor billionaires, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, interesting dynamic there. But I also am sympathetic to some people thinking like, hey, are we in a bubble? And are these owners that are getting out sort of sensing that and trying to jump ship before that bursts, right? Like, why does it matter that if these franchises are potentially overvalued? When a company outside of like a sports franchise, and maybe this also applies to sports franchises, when a company is overvalued and they've been borrowing money against the value of that company, it augments the negative impacts if the value of the company goes down, because it's like, oh, this is like when your mortgage goes underwater. This is like basically what happened during the housing crisis, right? There were all these homes overvalued. People were, they had borrowed too much against the cost of that, because of various mispractices that you can see in the movie The Big Short. Also not a sponsor of this show, by the way. Mm-hmm. And yeah, when it bursts, it's like, oh, all this other stuff is tied to the value of these homes, and then the whole economy comes crashing down. Which is not what I'm saying is going to happen with sports valuations, but it's kind of like a microcosm of like why an owner would want to get out and like now and like, avoid that potential. But I've seen no indications that the market's going to like go down. Like it is fake. Like we talk about this all the time because they're the sports media and the league, they seem to constantly be worried about ratings, which is a big part of how they negotiate their media rights deals, right? Which is a huge portion of their like hard revenue. Like, okay, this is like the known money that we know is like coming in. And yet they get a $70+ billion media rights deal penned despite ratings going down and like all of this stuff. Based on, I don't know, branding and basically the promise that they're going to get more eyeballs on these things somehow. But also, to be fair, like the media companies are in a bit of a bind because they're trying to retain customers at this point, and live sports are kind of the only way to keep people on cable. In the case of like NBC is in on this deal, or to like force people to subscribe to your platform, right? And stay subscribed on your platform. I think live sports is probably the best way to do that because, they could get bored of your TV shows, but they'll, for the most part, be loyal to their sports teams. So there's a couple of different forces at play here, but I don't know. It's an interesting trend to monitor, and I wonder if I asked you if the number of teams that sold over the next 5 years, not counting Portland, because we're just gonna, it's not final yet, but we're gonna assume this deal goes through. If I said the number of teams that sold over the next 5 years was 7, which means you get to like a total of, is it 6 plus almost half the league in a less than 10-year span, would you be surprised?
Half the league, yeah, I'd still be surprised. Just because that just seems so crazy to have that big of a shift. And just, I mean, the owners affect a lot. Like they vote on bargaining agreements, they vote on expansion. They control basically everything. And so that's a lot of new minds with new perspectives. I don't know how things would shift, or, these people are often buying these things in, groups, these private equity groups. And I don't know how that affects team direction as well. But you never know. You never know how those things are going to turn out. But yeah, that'd be crazy.
Good call on the private equity and how they could, if they, there's various rules and like bylaws right now in terms of like individuals and how much of a thing they're allowed to own. Like, I don't think private equity is currently allowed to own like more than less than a majority percentage of a team. But maybe enough owners come in and change those rules because they want more money coming into the league. And then you get private equity coming in, and then they have those voting rights and things like that. And I think that's a really good thing to monitor for the future, because owners / governors are the ones that end up making a lot of big decisions about the structure of the league. So good call there.
And plus, like, expansion, like Adam Silver has laid out, it costs owners money because that's just more teams that are in the league. So it's you definitely do have to weigh the financials of that. I don't think that's necessarily spooking away the current owners, like they're worried about, some kind of financial impact of expansion and therefore are getting out. I think it's just a lot of groups and people have a lot of money and their franchises are valued very high, and they're just like, yeah, I'll take that. So, but I think the league's going to be fine. Yeah. And like you said, the ratings doesn't matter. The media deals are signed, so the league's in a good spot.
For now, but the next week we'll get more hand-wringing articles about ratings being down because nobody watches cable. But we're not going to talk about that, even though it's like the biggest driver of that very story. All right. If we have nothing else on the news segments, let's get to the actual big news of the day. The full NBA schedule is out now. Let's first talk about, let's see, what order do I want to go in here? Because first of all, the NBA has been doing these drips and putting out the schedule in drips and drabs, right? Where they put out, first we got the Shams leak of the Christmas Day games at the end of last week. It was like a weird Friday news dump. And then on Friday, we got the official Christmas Day schedules. We get the IST stuff. We get the opening night stuff. We get the MLK games, all kind of getting their own little announcements to between like this week, right? And then today the full schedule comes out. I assume we're going to get like the official, all the official schedules are out, so you can just see what it is if you went through it. But we haven't gotten, I think, the official like rivalry week poster yet. But all that kind of stuff. They did this last year too. They've been doing this for a couple years now, I believe, where they have put out the schedule in these kind of chunks in these segments. It does feel a little bit more segmented this year, I will say. Like, I don't think I needed, maybe this is just me, I don't think I needed to know that there were like 6 East teams playing on MLK Day. Like, that's great. It's I don't think it has quite the prestige of like Christmas Day, especially because those are the national TV games on MLK Day, but there's going to be non-national TV games on MLK Day too. That like, it's just these games are happening, right? So, what was your thought on the rollout this year?
Yeah, I saw some funny takes about people hating on it a bit. Where, yeah, it's a long schedule. Teams mostly play the same teams all the time. You really only want to see the full schedule to see how many back-to-backs and things of that nature. If you're already a really good team or in a big market, you're getting a ton of national TV spots. But I would say, like, yeah, the Christmas Day one I'm always interested in because that's just like a big time for the NBA and it's a huge holiday here. So I am imagining what my holiday is going to be like and what time the Nuggets are going to be on. I always prefer the Nuggets to be on in the day during Christmas. Personally, I don't love the night games. And so the fact that it's on late for me is not a good thing. I don't even know if I'm going to watch it, like, to be honest, because it's like family time. It's really hard to make time to watch sports on Christmas.
I think you'd want to watch it if it weren't the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really cool...
Well, I was on the fence, but the fact that it's this opponent makes me not want to watch it.
I mean, there is an element of that, but no, it's really just the time. Like, just family time is really important on Christmas. It's really hard for me personally to watch sports on Christmas. I know other families or people that's a big time. And obviously the NBA does really well, but I'm not a sports person on a holiday person. But more power to the league. I do worry because the NFL is also playing on Christmas that day. The Broncos are playing that day. So if you're a Denver fan and you love watching sports, you have a full day of Nuggets and Broncos to enjoy. Yeah, the Nuggets do play horribly in midday games. This is a comment from the chat. That is a good point, but
that's true.
But for me, it would be better. And I am being selfish about this. But yeah, maybe we have a better chance to win and beat the Wolves since it's at night. That's like the silver lining. And so I'm sure for Nuggets fans, that's cool. But the Wolves Nuggets rivalry continues. Maybe this is the year we can finally kill that, with the Wolves hopefully declining and us getting even better.
So we've actually teased the slate enough. Why don't you bring up the actual Christmas Day announcement poster from the NBA that includes the Denver Nuggets playing the Minnesota Timberwolves on the late game? In just a second.
For Christmas? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So there are 5 games on Christmas. And the first thing that I think everybody noticed watching when they saw this was there are 5 games and thus 10 teams playing. And often you'll get like 2 East games where it's just 4 East teams playing, and then maybe you'll get like 1 mixed conference game, and if not, it's just like all the rest West. In this case, we have 8 Western Conference teams playing on Christmas after the noon Cavs-Knicks matchup. Those 2 teams obviously expected to be the 2 best teams in the conference, in the Eastern Conference next year by far. And then a bunch of West teams. So what is the message that you think the NBA is sending to the Eastern Conference with this particular scheduling choice here?
It's so hilarious. Yeah, that's the other interesting thing about how they're doling out like opening day and Christmas Day. You get to see kind of what the league thinks about their teams and what the marquee matchups are, how they're going to sell the league, how they're going to promote it. And yeah, as you can see, Cavs, Knicks, they're the 2 best teams in the East, large part due to injuries in the East. So, I mean, I'm with the NBA on this. Like, I'm a Western Conference person. I think these West teams are way more interesting, but I'm a Nuggets fan. So naturally, I would think that. But also the East just isn't as good. But they have some fun stars over there that you can watch on occasion. I'm sorry that the Magic
stars in the East. Yeah, actually, I agree. I think if there was going to be if they wanted to make it like 3 East teams, at least like throw them one more bone, they could have had like the Magic versus some West team, right?
Yeah,
instead of
cool.
Like I probably would have cut out. Is it the Dallas Mavericks are playing on Christmas Day? They're playing the Warriors, and I'm like, that particular game isn't really going to move me. In terms of
why
like
are the Mavericks playing? Get them out
matchup.
of here.
It's Cooper Flag.
I forgot.
Same thing as last year with Wemby getting. Although last year, I will say, probably the best game of Christmas Day was Spurs Knicks, which nobody really expected that game to be particularly, competitive because the Spurs were not good last year. Although I'm trying to remember, was it last year or the year before? I was at my in-laws. Anyway, it must have been, I think it was Wemby's first Christmas.
Also,
that game was really competitive. I think it went to overtime. What were you going to say?
I would have done OKC versus Houston and then Dallas versus the Lakers. Luka versus the Lakers, LeBron versus AD.
Luka versus the Mavs. And I agree with that.
And
I think
KD
the reason
versus
they didn't
OKC.
go with... Yeah, that would have made more sense. And that's why they did... I think they did Rockets Thunder for one of the opening day games, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I think that would have been a
maybe that's
more
why they didn't
fun
do it.
Christmas. Like I as scrappy, no matter how scrappy you think the Spurs are going to be next year, I don't expect that Thunder Spurs game to be competitive in the slightest. Like
maybe they'll surprise us.
You just sent them into a buzzsaw.
Yeah, like I don't know. The Spurs are supposed to be getting better and better every year. Maybe they'll surprise us, but I would expect that. I don't know. I'd expect OKC to win pretty, not like easily, but I don't think there's as much
No, I
intrigue
expect
around
it to be
that.
pretty handy.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah,
Well,
do you think?
we'll get into that in our future episode when we actually talk about our tiers, our team tiers. But I very much disagree with a lot of the people that say the Spurs are going to be like a potential playoff team, or even like a top 8 play-in team. I just don't see it.
They probably didn't do enough and like go crazy by signing some new people.
And I think it's underrated how much better Chris Paul made them last year. Not that I'm saying they should have kept him, but I think that like if you're analyzing the team, the fact that they lost Chris Paul is not really being factored in as much as I think people should in terms of like evaluating, was that like leap that they took before Wemby got sick last year real? It's like, I think it kind of was, but it was very Chris Paul driven at the same time. What do you think the best Christmas Day game is going to be?
Well, just besides the Nuggets, the Wolves Nuggets always provides a pretty good product for fans. I feel
like it's like 50-50. It could be amazing as a game, just like close and competitive and all this stuff, or it could be a disaster. And if it's a disaster, it's because Denver like didn't care.
I feel like it's well. Like Cavs Knicks is a good matchup, just team to team, two good That's teams true. In the East.
And these are teams that played each other in a playoff series just like 2 playoffs ago, right?
Yeah. So
2023.
I'd say that and Nuggets Wolves are the 2 best games. The other ones are not that good. Like the Lakers,
I think
like
maybe
they're not going to be that amazing. I don't think.
You know what it is with the Rockets is they like to pit LeBron against KD. It's not really like a Rockets Lakers thing. It's LeBron versus KD that they're trying to manufacture here. And that's the other thing when we get to the list of national TV games for each team is the Rockets are shot way up and the Suns are way down. And that is 100% driven by one team has Kevin Durant now and the other one does not anymore. Right? Because even last year, like, I don't know how good people were expecting Phoenix to be, that they were still up there with national TV games because they had Kevin Durant.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you talked about Christmas Day. Let's not get swept by the Wizards. I agree, Soro. Let's talk about opening night, which turns into opening week. We'll talk about where Denver fits into that, actually. We alluded to this when you mentioned, Will, how you would prefer to pair up the Thunder with a matchup against the Rockets. Well, the league actually agreed with you, and they put the Thunder versus the Rockets at OKC on their ring night as the first game of the NBA season. And this is premiering on NBC and Peacock, so that's cool. Seems like they are taking up the NBC is absorbing all the TNT stuff. TNT would have opening night, and then you'd also be able to watch it on Max or HBO Max, whatever they were calling their streaming platform at that time. I actually thought this was a pretty good matchup idea, just like you did, right? Kevin Durant against his former team, right? He's the son of the Thunder, basically. Left that franchise for nothing in 2016 to join the 73-win Warriors, of course. And I'm not going to lie, I was expecting one of these teams to play on opening night, but I did not expect the other game to be Warriors-Lakers. And I'm not saying it's a bad choice, even though both of these teams are going to be mid. It's just like a strange one to me because there are just better teams out there that you could have paired against either one of the Warriors or Lakers. And it probably would have been the Lakers because they usually take they usually take precedence even amongst the marquee teams in the league.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny and kind of cool in some way to still see the league using LeBron and Steph. LeBron hasn't announced anything, but this could be LeBron's last season. So the Steph LeBron matchups are still going to be historic. I know Nuggets fans aren't huge fans of those people, but there's something historic about them playing against each other that I still think is interesting and fun. And I like they often did that on Christmas too, and I always kind of enjoyed that. But LeBron got hurt one of those years, and that was really disappointing because then it just like the game was not exciting or interesting. But yeah, I guess KD versus OKC on opening day, can't repeat that on Christmas. But I feel like the league should save the best matchups for Christmas, because I think they're really trying to make that their time. And opening night's like exciting, but to me, it's just not as big of an event as the Christmas Day games, personally. But
so you would have preferred I would probably have preferred Warriors Lakers on Christmas to Mavs Warriors, and then I guess the Lakers play the Rockets. You could have had the Rockets play like who's another. You could have given the Magic that slot, or you could have put another West team there, like the Clippers are another team that's expected to be really good next year that aren't really on any of the major national TV, announcement releases. They're gonna get national TV games, of course, but they're not getting any of the marquee games, despite being like, that's the whole like idea of that team, or at least in the current core in its conception. Obviously, they don't have Paul George anymore, but the whole the thing with the Clippers over the last few years is that they've just been cycling through future Hall of Famers, and they still have Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, whatever. It's not like they're lacking in star power. And yet they're on the outside looking in this year, and probably previous years too. I can't remember the last time the Clippers had a marquee game. And perhaps understandably, especially after, say, the 2023 season, where the league was probably just like, we don't know if Kawhi's going to play. I would counter that with, you pretty much know James Harden's going to play because he plays all the time. Like, he's a regular season workhorse, right? And so not quite the same star power as Kawhi Leonard in terms of like giving the audience what they want. But I mean, it's still James Harden. He's still like pretty high up there. I guess it was just not enough to contend with. I've got the list of names that they've got up there for Christmas Day, and it's very much like those top end superstars. You've got Chet versus Wemby in Thunder Spurs, but obviously SGA is the star of the Thunder in that case, but you got the little Chet Wemby rivalry. You've got Mavs Warriors, and I just put question marks there. So I'm like, you have Cooper Flag versus Steph Curry. Is that what we're going for here? Then Rockets Lakers is LeBron versus KD, and then Wolves Nuggets, obviously Anthony Edwards versus Nikola Jokic, right? But yeah, the Clippers are very much left out of this picture, and the league had no qualms about it because they didn't even throw them I don't even believe they were on the MLK slate. I could be wrong about that. Yeah, what do you think of how the league is treating the Clippers now?
Yeah, it is interesting, especially they have Bradley Beal now. They got CP3 back. They should be marketing them more. That's true,
right? Like, again, they've just been cycling through Hall of Famers over the last, 5 years of this team. So it's not like they're ever lacking in, somebody is going to be on the floor probably on that day that, that's going to be maybe not Bradley Beal, but otherwise first ballot Hall of Famers.
Totally. I think people are going to be interested to see Bradley Beal playing on a obviously lesser contract. So he has more reliable players around him than him needing to carry so much just because of the weight of his contract. And people are going to be interested to see how CP3 looks like. That's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm not sure how the average NBA fan views the Clippers or not, whether they think they're exciting or if they clown on them because they're the little brother in LA, and maybe they're not a Steve Ballmer fan because he's kind of annoying during the games. But they have a cool stadium, and you can kind of appreciate them as a fan base that hasn't been.
The dome, the Intuit Dome would have. It's the Intuit Dome, right? That would have been popping.
Right. I've always
the
felt
wall
like
would have been going crazy.
Yeah, I mean they have a cool stadium, and Dime Dropper does good work like for Locked On Clippers, and they have like a cool, passionate fan base who haven't been like seduced to the Lakers fan base, which would be easy to fall into because they're so massive. So that's kind of cool. But I've always felt a little rivalry with the Clippers ever since the bubble. And when we got Aaron Gordon and we crushed them, that was like a big statement win. And for a while we had kind of been owning them, and that was really fun. And then we had that playoffs last season that went to 7 games. So there's something there that I'll always kind of hate the Clippers, and I don't really like Kawhi personally, but that's just my personal opinions. But yeah, I feel like if Kawhi's healthy, James Harden, like that's a good team to market if the league is doing what they normally do, which is push big market teams, which can be annoying, but
exactly. And
anyway.
Like stars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought it was I thought it was interesting that they are on the outside looking in here. All right, the other big day. Let's see here. We went over opening night. Let's go over the Denver Nuggets NBA Cup schedule for West Group C. So we already knew from the NBA Cup group announcements that the Nuggets would be playing the Blazers, the Rockets, and the Spurs, as well as the Warriors in their group. But now we have the full schedule out here. They did like an accompanying video to when they released this schedule. It was Vegas themed, as you can imagine, because the whole goal here is to get a free weekend in Vegas for these guys. And maybe not try in the knockout rounds while you're there, so that you don't have to play that extra 83rd game. Although Denver has never actually made it. So when the groupings first came out, this particular group was dubbed the Group of Death, West Group C. Do you still feel that way? Because I'm trying to remember if the groups came out before or after free agency. I think it must have been after, because I was thinking about the Rockets as like a real team, but they were really good last year too. Anyway, do you still feel like this is the Group of Death, even though the Warriors currently have 9 guys on their roster?
Let's see here. Yeah, this is definitely the Group of Death. Because Wolves and OKC
is that just relative to the other? Yeah.
Well, yeah, because West A has Minnesota and OKC. Those are the 2 good ones. And then in that same group, it's Suns, Kings, and Jazz, who are all like jokes to me. And then West B is Mavs, Clippers, who are pretty good. I don't really know how the Mavs are going to be, but I could see the Mavs being decent. And then Lakers, Memphis, Pelicans. I'm so low on the Lakers for some reason in my mind. Like I look at them and I'm just like, they're not going to be good. But they could be a lot better. Do you think they're going to be
worse than the Suns?
No. Suns are going to be much worse. But anyway, yeah. And then West C, it's like Golden State and Nuggets, Rockets, Spurs. It depends on how good the Spurs are, though, I guess. But I think even if they're just middle of the road, that's still the Group of Death. And yeah, the Blazers are kind of like, oh God, I'm going to say it, sneaky, dynamic. I'm not going to say good.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. So it's not like they're pushovers, and they have some fun players, and yeah. But
yeah, I guess it's like, go ahead.
No, I kind of like that we have the Group of Death, which it sucks for your chances in the NBA Cup, but to me, it makes the NBA Cup games more interesting, like and more of an event where you watch it and you're like, this is an NBA Cup game, so there's a little bit more stakes than normal, and it's against like the Rockets and the Warriors and the Spurs, so it's like you got to try harder in those games, and that's what the NBA is trying to do, is put together these interesting games. And when it's like an NBA Cup game versus the Pelicans, I just like don't care as much, and it's almost like more frustrating because you're like, you have to win this because it's an easy team, it's the NBA Cup, you better take care of business, and then it's like annoying when they're messing around.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think so. Basically, you value having some like throwaway teams in your group to not be a group of death. And I guess I would agree with you that there aren't any throwaway teams in your group. I guess it's more like there's only one team in this group that Denver may not be favored against in this game, which doesn't mean that they'll win because Denver loses games that they're favored against all the time, or favored in all the time. But there's nothing that is like, oh, this is like a scheduled L in these groups. Whereas I feel like the other groups have more scheduled Ls. Like I actually think all these games will be semi-competitive, except maybe the Spurs, and that's probably the one where we lose, right? Watch.
Plus, overall, it might be the toughest group talent-wise, but if we were in a group with OKC and the Wolves, I'd be so pissed. So
absolutely.
At least we skipped out on that matchup.
Yeah. That particular seeding helped us out, and where the Wolves finished last year helped us out with that as well. I think OKC and the Wolves were in the same group last year too. I think so. The Thunder have definitely been in a group with the Kings 3 years in a row now. So that's interesting.
More Adam Silver just making it easy on the Thunder.
I mean, the Kings were a really bad matchup for them until Fox left, actually. Even though they often won those games, but it was really tight down the end. They didn't beat them as easily as you'd think. Sabonis is beating them up on the inside too. So now the Kings are just, substantially inferior enough to where it doesn't matter. But
did you forget that the Bucks won the NBA Cup last season? Because I almost did. Because we got a comment about that, and
I didn't forget because I really enjoyed watching that final game where I'm like, oh yeah, this is what's wrong with OKC's offense.
Yeah, well, and they gave me false hope that Giannis was showing how their interior defense was a little more susceptible, and then that didn't end up being really the case in the playoffs. But
I don't know why you thought that, Will. We talked about this after that game. I said the Thunder's defense was not the issue in this game. The Bucks won with a 102 offensive rating.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a blowout because the Thunder had an 87 or something. It was a 93, something like that. This is why you got to listen to me. Yeah. All right. So those are the big marquee moments in the schedule. Let's talk about the Denver Nuggets. Let's talk about the Denver Nuggets preseason schedule because I have some thoughts about this one.
Right.
First up, the identity of the teams that Denver is going to play. I feel like they play the Wolves, Thunder, and the Bulls every preseason. And I think the Clippers 2 out of the last 3. I could be wrong. It could be all 3 of the last few years. And I just want to know, there are other teams in our division. We don't always have to play OKC and the Wolves during preseason. That was just my first, okay, whatever. First thing off the bat. So they play they start off their preseason on October 4th, playing the Minnesota Timberwolves at I think it's the Pentanga Arena in San Diego, which is also where the Nuggets are hosting their training camp. So my question about this, and we can speculate on it because it's not really, hasn't really been announced to us, are the Nuggets just not going to come home between training camp and their first preseason game? I.e., they're just going to stay in San Diego through that whole time because that first preseason game is there. And if so, that means they're going to not be in Denver through training camp, the game against the Wolves, which counts as one of their home games. They're going to be at a road game against the Raptors, a road game against the Clippers, and then they'll be coming home for that Bulls preseason game towards the end of preseason. Will, what do you think about that as a possibility for team bonding?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is we may not be going to Abu Dhabi, but we're not going to be home either. So this is the little team bonding preseason training camp trip, I suppose, which is not going to be promising for watching some of the younger players and new players who, you know, people say role players don't play as well traveling and all that. So maybe we won't have as positive of an outlook on some of these players in preseason, but you never know. Like preseason's weird. So we lost to the Bulls in preseason 2 years ago.
I haven't looked at what Cam Johnson's home road splits look like this last year. You keep talking while I look that up.
No, I mean, I don't really care that we're not home a lot in preseason. It's just a time to like get in the swing of things. You know, players aren't going to play a ton. Starters play like one half and then they play one quarter or something like that. So I'll be interested to see DaRon get minutes. I'll be interested to see Cam because that'll be the first time we're seeing him just playing around these players. So while preseason is usually not as interesting to me in general, I'm still going to be excited to see because this is the first glimpse of the new Nuggets and I'm like already impatient to see them play. But thankfully, you don't have to win the games. So even if we're on some crazy schedule and we end up losing more preseason games than you would want, like I'm not going to be concerned or care.
So is that 51 days until the first preseason game? There's 30 days in September, right? So 34 plus there's 17 left in August. We got 51 days, guys. Wow, it was just feels like just yesterday. There were 82 days until the 82 game season. So summer is flying by. I think it'll go faster once like Eurobasket starts. That's the other part of this schedule is because the Nuggets have actually no, because so I mentioned that they have a preseason game against the Raptors. It's going to be in Vancouver, which is a potential expansion location as well, that I think, you know, Adam Silver is kind of throwing a bone to. I think that'll be interesting. It's a beautiful city. I've never been there in person, but it looks gorgeous. And the Raptors are technically hosting. They have to host a quote unquote home game for them, and they have to fly across the country to do it because Vancouver's on the west coast of Canada, as opposed to Toronto over there in the east. But anyway, I bring that up because that's a lot of travel early on. And Jokic, if Serbia makes a deep run through Eurobasket, is probably only going to have like less than a week before training camp starts. Let's say if they go to the Eurobasket finals. Because that'll go through mid-September. And then training camp starts, I think like 10 days, maybe like 8 to 10 days before that first game. So that'll be something to monitor for him as well. Which in the title year, didn't Jokic like just fly in the day before training camp, just like he does every year, but he had like basically just finished Eurobasket when he came in. So, you know, keep being that workhorse, big fella. Right? Just keep it up. Hopefully the others can pick up the slack around you while you try to get your win back under you for the season.
We got eliminated in the playoffs earlier than we would have wanted, and Jokic just had time doing his river rafting and horse racing and went to China and did all that stuff. So I think he had a pretty good off season, and he loves playing with Team Serbia and being around those guys. I think that's more of a positive to him than not, except for the fact that it's just more time playing. But I don't think it'll be as like taxing as the Olympics or anything. Let's hope. But yeah, it's a quick turnaround.
Why?
I don't know.
I guess
Olympics
it's like less. There's probably less
event.
like media stuff and like there's probably just a little bit less hubbub around the event and other events that are happening around you and other Serbian athletes from like participating in other disciplines as well that you're interacting with and that kind of thing. So yeah,
but I also
there is
just
a
think
difference.
I don't know how the players feel about Olympics versus Eurobasket, but I would imagine the investment in the Olympics is so much greater, and the pride, and it's like it only happens every 4 years. It's a huge world event, so there's a lot of pressure, and I'm sure they're like focused and intense. So, but yeah, before we go to the Nuggets schedule, we didn't talk about Kessler Edwards, but a lot of the chat is bringing him up.
Oh, yeah, sure. So this was going to be my last news item now that I was thinking about it when we did the pre-show planning here. So the Denver Nuggets signed Kessler Edwards to an Exhibit 10 deal, which is a training camp deal. I agree, 140 acres, but they're still probably not going to sign him. So for reference, an Exhibit 10 deal is a training camp deal that allows a player to participate in training camp, and it gives the team that signs the deal with that player the right to basically sign them to a two-way contract if they want to. That's not going to happen in Denver's case because they already have filled their 3 two-way roster spots. But the other thing that it does is sort of establish that relationship between the two, and then potentially, I don't know that they're going to do this, but maybe if training camp goes well, they want to sign him to the Grand Rapids Gold. Kessler Edwards, really good defender, kind of an end of bench guy for a couple different teams. I've seen him on the Mavs and the Kings the last couple of seasons for sure. Mostly plays in garbage time or if there's like a bunch of injuries on the wing. He's just kind of like he kind of reminds me of Spencer Jones, and it's not just because they're both have the same body type and curly hair. Like they just kind of both do the same thing. They're just like defensive wings that shoot sometimes. Kessler probably has a little bit more to his like off the dribble game. But the point is that these guys are not going to play, and I don't think that Kessler is going to get that 15th roster spot either. That was definitely a question that a lot of people had when the news first came out, because it was first announced as Denver Nuggets are signing Kessler Edwards to 1-year deal instead of it's a training camp. Like my thing when I saw that was that I knew it was a training camp deal, because if it wasn't, they would have said so, because they're getting this information from agents that want to make it sound as good as possible. But no, the Denver Nuggets have not filled their 15th roster spot with this signing. I don't think they're going to before the season starts, because they want to stay as close to the luxury tax as possible so that they have the opportunity to duck it at the deadline. That's just what they're probably going to do. But yeah, they signed this guy. So what do you think of him?
I don't know much about him. I saw the news. I saw stats about his 3-point shooting. People were kind of selling him as a shooter.
On like 40 attempts for the season.
And I was like, I didn't expect to sign anyone in the 15th roster spot. So not knowing that it was an Exhibit 10 right away, I was like pretty like confused and shocked. And I was like, what? But I'm so brainwashed by Ben Wallace at this point. I'm like, all faith to them. Whatever they decide to do, if there's a reason that they're signing this guy to the 15th spot, I'll just go with it. But I don't know much about him, but I think it's good to bring in a guy who can compete in training camp. And there's some comments that reflect that, and I wanted to bring some of them up because we have I assume a Mavs fan here, Dirk Mania, who says that he helped the Mavs a ton, and the Mavs fans were mad that they chose Prosper over him. We also
another
have
team that is the victim of we got to develop the young guys. They brought Edwards in to threaten Pwat and Tyson's spot. This is according to Soro Alpha. They brought Edwards in to threaten Pwat and Tyson's spot and give them competition, but he's probably going to take Tyson's spot. He's underrated, in my opinion. Soro, I think they probably brought him in to have competition at training camp. That has been a running theme between John Wallace in particular and David Adelman throughout the summer, that they are really looking forward to having competitive training camp. But Hunter Tyson's spot is probably not under threat, because if they haven't filled their 15th roster slot yet, they're probably not going to waive a guy to pay another guy. And I don't think either thing is going to happen. I think they're just going to go into the season with the 14 guys that they have. I don't like it because it's clearly purely financially motivated. But that is what they're going to do. Like, I would be surprised at this point if they did something else.
Yeah, Dirk Mania brings up a good point.
Dudley will make them sign Edward over Hunter. I do not think that Jared Dudley has the power to make them not want to duck the luxury tax.
But I do like the Dudley connection with him. This deal may be short-lived. Right, we'll see how it works out. But yes, so he knows him.
Yeah.
Maybe Dudley already influenced them to give him this opportunity. You never know. I'm sure that he gave them some info for sure. Probably.
We know that coaches are a factor in the player recruitment process for sure. 140 acres, I wouldn't say perfect, but we could always use more defenders. And if he knows where to be, knows where to cut, all that kind of stuff, that could be interesting. It'll be interesting to see, hear what quotes come out of training camp, even though sometimes they're total bullshit. Like when Aaron Gordon told us that Dario Saric was going to be competing for rotation time. But there were other years where Michael Malone told us that Justin Holiday looked great, and he didn't play for the beginning of the season, but then he looked great when he did play in the latter half of the season, and especially the playoffs.
And didn't they say? Well, I can't remember. It was either Justin or Pwat was like the new Jeff Green, but better or something. Anyway, the quotes can be crazy.
They said that. Yeah, they said both were, and I think Justin probably did fill that role. Peyton did not, and that was that.
We did. I don't know if you saw this, but there was a little news breaking that Amir Coffey signed with the Bucks.
I did see that. So Amir Coffey did agree to let me read this exact language now. 1-year deal with the Milwaukee Bucks. I thought it was a vet minimum because I feel like he's at least worthy of a vet minimum. Like, that's the kind of player, like, do-it-all dude that, can play minutes and is, like, available and, like, isn't, like, he isn't kind of any particular kind of liability. He's not great at any one thing, but he can do a little bit of everything. But this announcement says, this is from Shams, free agent forward Amir Coffey has agreed to a 1-year deal with the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't know if that deal is a vet minimum deal, i.e. a standard roster spot. So I'm going to do a little digging live on the show here, like we're about to do, into the schedule. And I'm just going to see if the Milwaukee Bucks even have a standard roster spot available right now. I think they do, because they had not fully filled out their roster the last time that I checked. But this is kind of the first thing that you can do to vet some of these reports, is figure out, like, is it even viable what they're saying. Just a second here, guys. But why don't you tell the people what you think of Amir Coffey, in particular his time with the Clippers the last few years? I was surprised that they didn't keep him because he just seems like a useful guy to keep around.
Yeah, I mean, people are looking for contributors for sure. It's another guy in the Bucks, 1-year deals, low pressure. But Amir Coffey, how has he been? What did he do last season? Oh, I was gonna look up.
He didn't do much. He was kind of out of the rotation. So I have our answer, by the way, on the deal. So the Milwaukee Bucks, they currently have 15 standard roster spots filled. They could waive somebody to sign Amir to a standard deal, but it's also very possible that this, like the Kessler Edwards deal, was just a training camp deal. It's annoying that these things get reported out like this because it's like
there's no info.
The players, agencies, the management agencies, if they want to put out a vague message to sound fluffy and good, they can hire a PR firm, or a lot of these places have PR departments. If they're big enough, they can put out a statement, right? If you're a reporter, I would very much prefer that you put out information that is useful and preferably not intentionally misleading, which is what a lot of these feel like at this point in the summer.
Yeah. Well, he's a decent, like, just shooter in general, so he can give them some shooting, but he can be okay on defense. I wouldn't call him like a crazy lockdown defender, but he's not like a scrub. So I don't know. It's another contributor to the Bucks, makes them a little more interesting. But
yeah, I think the Bucks just need players. So I was kind of like, this makes sense for Milwaukee. He's probably going to play and probably going to play a lot, but they'd have to waive somebody to give him a standard deal. I think he probably earns that. I don't know.
Yeah,
like, I can't imagine him playing so badly in training camp compared to the guys they have that he can't earn a spot.
Yeah, what are they worried about?
I think that John Horst, I have my issues with the way that he's managed Milwaukee's assets, Milwaukee's roster spots, Milwaukee's contracts, because they have, by my last count, 9 player options on their books. They have more player options than not amongst the player contracts on their books, which is got to be a record when I take my final tally before the season starts. When I wrote my article about the long and short term contract dilemma, I went into an aside on player options, because I was like, why is Denver giving out so many of these things, and kind of comparing them to the rest of the league. And Milwaukee was another team that was way up there for the number of player options that they had, especially given over the last few years. This skyrockets them into first in the league by a mile in terms of player options given out this summer. So that's another thing to watch. But yeah, for right now, like I said, I was right. The point was, I have a lot of issues with what John Horst has done, but over the last few years, I've really liked the minimum signings that they've been able to get. Right, Taurean Prince, Gary Trent Jr., now potentially Amir Coffey, if they can get him on a vet minimum from a training camp deal. Cole Anthony, who they, more hit or miss than the other ones in terms of like being like a consistent positive contributor, or like medium contributor, because when we're talking about Taurean Prince, it's like this is just a body at this point. But yeah,
they always sign these minimum guys that a lot of Nuggets fans were interested in, like Gary Trent and and like Cole Anthony. I think some people, like, before, I can't remember, I think just during the free agency when the Mavs, or when he became available, some Nuggets fans are interested in Cole Anthony as like a backup point guard. And he goes to the Bucks, which I don't even know if we are getting a backup point guard. It's still a question. And if we sign Kessler Edwards, he's certainly not that. So that would show that it's Pickett time and Bruce Brown time for that role.
Yes, I think that's what it's going to be. I think they've just been lying to us all summer, and all the recent-ish statements about. Yeah, for sure. Then again, nothing was indicated about anything else that they did besides signing Bruce, which Bruce had been indicating.
That we were going to only improve through free agency and not trade. So.
Yes, and rely heavily on internal development. All right, that's it for the major schedule days. Let's get to our next segment, which is the Denver Nuggets quirks of our schedule. Okay, so this is the segment where we're really flying by the seat of our pants here, right? I'm on vacation right now. I've got my laptop, so I've got like a tiny screen, and I've got my multiple windows open. I'm scrolling Twitter to get the latest updates on the segmentation between the Nuggets schedule, et cetera, in terms of things like back-to-backs and long road trips and things like that. So we're going to get through this adventure live. We'll also be monitoring the chat to see what are the areas of interest in the Denver Nuggets schedule that you would like to know about. But my first question about the schedule, Will, is how many national TV games does Denver have? And I actually have a graphic. Well, it's a picture of a graphic I'm going to send you so that we can project this up on the screen. So this was from NBA Today. Let me find it again. That listed all of the teams with the most national TV games in the league. Just a second.
Here's the full schedule. I was just looking to see if that had the has the ABC, NBC, but I'm not going to count them.
Yeah, we're not gonna count that kind of stuff. All right, so here is I'm sending Will this stuff so that he can pull this up while we talk about it live. But why does it matter? I'll do the spiel while you're working on that behind the scenes. The number of national TV games you get is a measure of status in the league, right? For years and years and years, the teams that got the most national TV games were the Lakers and the Celtics and the Warriors, right? It's how the league sees you in terms of being a marquee moneymaker for them, in terms of attracting eyeballs, in terms of having the star power to do so. And it really is more about that than being a good team, because as Will and I alluded to earlier in the show, the Phoenix Suns, when they had Kevin Durant, regardless of not being projected to be like a good team, got tons of national TV games. They were consistently within this upper echelon, right? This year, though, and we saw it a little bit in Denver's post-title run, but not to the degree that we're about to showcase with OKC as the reigning champions. We got a bump going on here for for a team that did not get over, I think they were under 20 national TV games last year in the case of the Oklahoma City Thunder, and now they are
everyone was
tied.
complaining about it.
Yes.
Ugh.
And now they are tied with the Lakers, Warriors, and Knicks for the most national TV games in the league. Will, I gotta let you cook on this one. How do you feel about the Oklahoma City Thunder getting the absolute star treatment from the league here?
It's just very predictable from the league. I don't know that there's some actual conspiracy by the NBA to push SGA as the new star face of the league, but he's definitely, undeniably marketable. He's not controversial.
He's North American. Not American, but North American. It's like, this is the closest we could get.
Yeah. He plays a more stereotypical star brand of basketball. It's like ISO scorer, automatic shot maker. He's exciting-ish. Like, I don't think he's as exciting as Steph's 3-point shot making, or like LeBron dunking or Ja dunking, but he can be popular to children who are susceptible to liking new stars. And so I think the league really wants SGA to be like the new face. So it would make sense that they'd give them the most national games. They also won the championship, so you do get some respect with that. For sure. He just won the MVP, so you get a bonus with that. But I mean, you know that I don't love his brand of basketball. I think it's boring. I think a lot of fans think he's boring. And I think that the NBA is underestimating how many casual NBA fans don't like watching SGA and kind of push back against what he does. And outside of OKC, I don't think he's as popular as they would believe.
Well, I think that popularity is a construct. So I disagree with a lot of what you said there. Although I will say, like, in terms of my like anecdata from like my family who are more casual NBA fans, OKC is not as like well known and popular. But like I said, popularity is a construct. It's all about getting the faces out there. I like that they're doing this because I think OKC is good enough, and it will be good enough. I think the fact that they are sort of set up to be like, this is going to be a team that's like in contention for a while, whether they win or not, in terms of like the ultimate thing. they're going to be up there for the next few years. And I would be curious to see if this is like just the exact same treatment that the Warriors got after their 2015 title. Although that was less. That was Steph's MVP, one of his MVP seasons, right? Was it 2015? Because he also won in 2016. But the Warriors won a lot that year too. So it's not like it was just the title where it's like, oh, that was kind of fluky, whatever. It's like that team was pretty darn good in the regular season. We don't expect them to fall off anytime soon, right? And the Thunder won 68 games last year. So I think it makes sense, but I am a little salty about it because, you know, the Nuggets definitely got a bump in the number of national TV games they got after their title, but it was not 34 games. So, you know, I'm just taking note. Just taking note.
Yeah.
On that one.
In the year we won the championship, Jokic won the MVP that previous season. And then obviously the championship season, he lost to Embiid. Our opening game, I believe, was
to the Jazz on the road
in Utah. Yeah. So it's like everyone was a little salty then.
Teams can start on the road and still be like marquee teams can start on the road, especially if they play each other. Like, you know, the Warriors are going to be on the road against the Lakers on opening night this year, for example.
But it was kind of stupid the way that they treated that just because Jokic was an MVP and didn't even get to open up in front of the fans. And it's like, I just feel like you're going to see a stark difference with how the league treats SGA versus Jokic a bit in terms of.
I agree with that, but I think I do think a large part of it is that they're trying to learn from the learn lessons from the past, right?
Maybe. I also think, you know, like
that's the generous interpretation.
As much as I want the league to market Jokic more, embrace him, I know Jokic has his own opinions on media and attention and stuff, so I don't have as much of a problem with it just because that's how Jokic would prefer operating, and so I'm fine with it. And yeah, like the OKC, they have a chance to be a dynasty. Like the league has to put them on national TV. Like I don't have a problem with it. I just think they're not that exciting. And I think until they fix the refereeing and the foul baiting and things like that, people are going to continue to complain about it. And OKC brings that to light. Whether you believe in that or care about that or not, it's definitely a thing. And yeah, we'll see.
Well, then you should like this more than anybody because it gets all of OKC's shenanigans in the spotlight.
Eyeballs on it. Yeah, exactly. I'm hoping that something comes of it. I will say though, like I never really understood Adam Silver's desire to push parity and like the CBA and all that, because I feel like the league does really well when it has a dynasty, like when it's Steph and LeBron and they're going at it. Like I know people bemoan it and they hate it, and I hated the Warriors dynasty too, but I think that it creates a lot of intrigue and like interest to have like a huge rivalry. Like I don't want to see teams repeating the finals 3 years in a row or like 8 years in a row, but I do think that there's something cool about that.
You're giving something up when you do that. I think the NBA is trying to be like the NFL. Whether it's going to get there for a variety of reasons is a different question. In terms of like in any given like 2 year span, any team could kind of, you know, be competitive enough to be like a real like title threat. That's my understanding. That's the way other people have described the NFL. If that's not the way that you feel about it, don't come at me. I don't know anything about football. But that's the way it's kind of been described to me from like from some football fans about what the NBA seems to be trying to do. Whether they're going to be successful at it is, you know, a different question. But it seems like they're kind of going full steam ahead with that model. And to your question about why Adam Silver is like, Adam Silver answers to a bunch of owners, including a bunch of owners that are just like billionaires that are jealous of other billionaires that have won several championships in some time span and are like, you know what? I don't like that. So let's change all the money rules and, you know, make that stuff more difficult.
Yeah. Well,
that's the answer.
Let's look at the other national
yes, please.
TV
So
games.
let's talk about where Denver actually sits here. One thing that surprised me looking at this, just like, again, a lot of this stuff is first or second glance, is they have you can look at it as sort of tiers, and there's like a top tier that are all tied for 34 national TV games. Like I said before, Lakers, Warriors, Knicks, and Thunder. Then there's the next tier that is the Rockets, Nuggets, and Timberwolves. Celtics maybe also, although they've experienced a severe drop off from where they were, which is where they were one of the upper marquee teams. But the Nuggets have fewer national TV games than the Timberwolves, and this is me being salty, but if you want to say like the league is like learning from their learning lessons from the past, technically speaking, even though the Timberwolves were the 6th seed last year and were a hot mess, they did go to the Western Conference Finals for the 2nd year in a row. So they have 2 more national TV games than the Nuggets. Like, okay, whatever. Sure. But the Rockets get a massive boost from where they were, which was in the teens last year, or maybe it might have been single digits, but I might be thinking of the year before when they were coming off of that worst of all time type NBA season before they signed any veterans. And that's obviously a huge boost because they acquired Kevin Durant in the Jalen Green trade. How do you feel about the Nuggets sitting in that sort of second tier still? The Nuggets have never, like, to be clear, the Nuggets have never been, even immediately after the championship, in that upper, like, marquee echelon of teams where it was literally like 3 or 4 teams. I remember that year it was Lakers, Warriors, Celtics, Knicks that had the upper 30s level of national TV games. That's when they were counting like NBA TV in there too. But they were kind of in that next tier down. It seems like they've kind of stayed there. How do you feel about that?
I think it's lame. I think the Nuggets having less national TV games than the Rockets in Minnesota is so stupid. But again, it's Ant is the next MJ, and KD, people go nuts because he can shoot mid-range shots. Wow. Congratulations. And not be pushing Jokic, who's the best player in the world and has one of the craziest like peak streaks we've ever seen. And the NBA is continuing to sleep on it a little bit. Like, I know it's only 2 less games. And when Jokic was starting on his MVP streak, I know like he could have won like 5 in a row. I'm just saying the NBA did pick up on it a little bit and had more national TV games. They won the championship. He won another MVP. The media clearly respected him more after winning the championship. I don't know that the league's fully come around to embracing him as much as he deserves. You could say this is another sign of it if you wanted to. And arguing for Nuggets disrespect is always something fun to do as a Nuggets fan. Like, if you tweet about that on Twitter, people are going to love you.
Anyway, I wanted to let you cook on that because I know that is one of your favorite things to do. Anything else you want to say about the national TV thing before we move on to
let's
schedule?
Let's go to the schedule.
Okay, so looking for this next graphic here, the next question that I had about the schedule was how many back-to-backs or 4 and 5s or just generally dense areas of the schedule are there going to be? And I'm trying to find the graphic right now, but I can tell you before we even get to it, the Nuggets are tied for the most back-to-backs in the league for the 2nd year in a row.
Why? Why the 2nd year? Is it because of our location? Denver? Like,
yes.
The only way that, yeah.
It is. I don't know if this is if this has just been a thing for years with Denver, because it's obviously always been where it is, where they tend to have, if not the most, like up there for the most back-to-backs in the league, where they're just like, we got to just like fit this travel in here somehow. And it's the only way. Like for other teams to come to Denver, I'd be curious to know if there's like a difference in the home versus road back-to-backs, i.e. like where Denver is on that 2nd night. But
and like the strength of schedule of the 2nd nights or something, like you could suss that out. Like
no, that's
I don't
think they're paying that much attention to it. I think it's more about, okay, here it is.
Yeah, I don't think they are. But
send that to you so we can see you might be you might be surprised at the identity of some of the other teams that that Denver is tied with in this regard. All right, just sent you that one here. Yeah, it's 16 back-to-backs. It was 16 last year as well. I'm trying to see where. So here's the thing, though, right? It sucks. It sucks to have back-to-backs. It sucks to have a super duper dense schedule. But didn't Denver only lose 2 second nights of back-to-backs? And I think even like on first nights of back-to-backs, they weren't as sharp, but they were still really good relative to how they performed the rest of the season. It seemed like at least last year during a pretty rough, let's say, stretch, Denver was able, like the players were able to like lock in because they knew they'd be, a problem. So Denver tied with a bunch of really lottery teams for the most back-to-backs in the NBA. The Sixers, the Suns, the Hornets, and the Wizards also have 16 back-to-backs. I don't think that the quality of the team like really factors in to these questions, except we know from last year when they said it explicitly that they're trying to make fewer national TV games back-to-backs. So if you are a team that has more national TV games, you'll have fewer back-to-backs, probably just sort of in terms of like a rough correlation. And those tend to be like good-ish, at least marquee teams that get the most national TV games. Denver is the rare team in this regard. Denver is the only team in the top 10 of national TV games that is on this list for the most back-to-backs, by the way.
We had a comment from the chat saying Port.
Totally agree. If we get a healthy AG this season, it will make all the difference.
Well, yeah, Embiid, this is a lot of games that he's going to have to miss because he has the most back-to-backs, but also like his knee, the report came out that he was not in good shape. So I don't know what's going to happen with him, but it's definitely funny to think about. I don't know. Like, is it Nuggets disrespect? Is it just logistics? The NBA, I get that scheduling's tough. There's a lot of games. They're trying to make it work. They're trying to put marketable games out there. I think that they don't care as much about the quality of the games, of course. They care more about stars being marketed and the money, and less about the quality of the product.
Well, if you put out the Lakers and the Warriors, 2 mid teams against each other, you might get a good game because the teams are evenly matched anyway, right?
True. Yeah.
Plus the star power, obviously.
Yep.
Okay. So the next question that I've got here is, when is the longest home stand? So this is going to be the one where we gotta skim through the schedule a little bit and basically look for a bunch of verses in a row. So this is going to be where Will, we're going to need you to do your zooming in thing. I just want to know when the Nuggets are going to be home in Denver for, the greatest, period of time. So on this schedule here, if you see all caps, that means the team is, or the opponent in all caps, it means that they're going to be home for a while. Let's see here.
There's one in it's a stretch in December.
Late December, but it's kind of broken up by an at Dallas.
Yeah, mid-December.
Also,
it doesn't seem like there's one like a massive homestand.
Yeah, they don't get 5 games in a row at home. 1, 2, 3, 4 at all this season. Like the most games they get at home in a row is 4. And that happens a few times. We've got the December where it's Orlando, Houston, Utah. Oh, no, that's not even 4 in a row because it's got an at Dallas in there. We've got the late March one, which is Philly, Toronto, Portland, broken up by some road games. That's probably the longest, like mostly
Yeah.
at home stretch is like the end of March,
Yeah.
beginning of April.
And going to Phoenix
that's
isn't like
interesting.
horrible, so it's not like a super far travel situation for them in the middle of that. So that's probably the biggest one in March.
Look at the time that Phoenix game is at, by the way. 9 p.m. Is that 9 p.m. Mountain?
I feel like these all have to be Eastern time, but I don't know.
Well, wait, why would they be Eastern now?
That should be local. Oh yeah, the Nuggets put this out and they put it out local.
Right. Like if it were Eastern, I'd expect to see more 10 p.m.s and...
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, these are all
11,
local.
10:30s. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, while we have this up then, let's look for the longest road trip. And I think we already got a couple people on Nuggets Twitter talking about this. If we direct our attention to early January, we've got, actually it's like the end of December through early January. Holy shit. Okay, we've got at Orlando, at Miami, at Toronto, at Cleveland, at Brooklyn, at Philly, at Boston. Is that a 7-game road trip?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Jeez.
Yeah. That's their Christmas gift. 7-game East road trip. And that's the Christmas gift. Yeah, right after the home game on Christmas.
There are a lot of easier teams, though. Besides the Magic. It's Miami, Raptors. Cleveland's hard.
Cleveland,
Brooklyn, Philly, Boston won't be that good. So,
well, the thing is, like, it's an Eastern Conference road trip. You're going to get a lot of easier teams in that.
That's true.
Situation.
But it is annoying to track. I mean, they're all like getting it done, like just East Coast in one fell swoop, I guess. Like, you know, those. It's Orlando and Miami, so they're just going right there. But then all the way to Toronto.
I think the only decent East team that's missing here is the Knicks and maybe the Pacers. We'll see how good they actually are next year.
Oh yeah, the Pacers.
They left all the easy East teams to be, you know, just kind of strewn throughout the schedule, which is kind of weird because I would expect, like, is there another East Coast road trip here? Usually there are 2, right? Because you don't hit all the teams at once, and usually they don't have a lot of cross-country travel.
There's this one in
schedule.
It's even in early December. There's a Indy, Atlanta, Charlotte, but that's it. It's just a 3-game.
Right before the NBA Cup week is happening. Actually, since we're on it, we can zoom in on that early December because I want to know, when it comes to the densest parts of the schedule, not just the back-to-backs and stuff, are we still going to get that weird, like, 5 days off that they got before the NBA Cup, like, knockout rounds happen? Because that, like, made the rest of the schedule super dense for no reason.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're doing it again. I can't tell. So here, they play on every other night starting early December, and then the knockout round games happen. It looks like if they don't make the knockout rounds, they're going to get a 4-day break before they start regular season games again on the off days of the NBA Cup knockout rounds.
Oh, look.
I feel like it was like 6 days last year. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but there is some type of break. I was just noticing.
This is all stuff that I would have figured out before we did the show if the schedule hadn't come out at 15 minutes before we streamed.
We're playing the Spurs on the last day of the season again.
Hey, that's good luck.
Or, I mean, 2 seasons ago when they knocked our seeding down, we lost to them.
While we're on it, San Antonio, I already see them 3 times on the schedule. I see there's 2 in April and then 1 in November. But the other thing I look at when I look at the schedule is which non-Northwest Division teams does Denver play 4 times? Because you'll play your division rivals 4 times every year, no matter what. And then you'll play some additional Western Conference teams 4 times, but you'll play the rest of them only 3. And it's just like to make the math work, basically. And I'm looking, and it looks like we will not be playing the Spurs. I'm just skimming here. It looks like we will not be playing the Spurs 4 times. I would love to play, like, the Suns 4 times or something, even though I hate them, but it's because I hate them. Golden State. We might end up playing Golden State 4 times because they're in our group, and we might get a makeup game with them like we did with the Clippers last year. Remember, where we had only 3 on the schedule, but we got one of the makeup games for the teams that don't make the NBA Cup knockout rounds. You get one against a team in your group. So then we ended up with 4, which gave us the opportunity to tie up the season series, by the way, and make it so that we ended up with home court in round 1, even though we had tied records ultimately. Yep. So that ended up being really like clutch for Denver. I actually haven't thought about that until this moment. So thank you, Adam Silver, ?
I was interested to see who we're playing on the second night of the back-to-backs and where a lot of the back-to-backs are, because you don't necessarily want them later or in the middle of the season because you're more tired. Like at the beginning, it might be a little better.
At Utah on March 2nd. So that's one of them, is the Jazz.
Okay, that's an easy one. There's an early one in November. It's the Clippers.
I was going to say Denver gets a huge break in the middle of February, and then I was like, oh, that's just the All-Star break. Oh my gosh, that was that face.
Oh, we played the Grizz 4 times.
Let's see, Memphis. I see Memphis in February. I see Memphis in January.
There's one in November. I see
Memphis in November. Okay. Is there one in like late December? Oh yeah, and it's in April. Memphis is one of the 4 timers. That's kind of annoying because I don't think Memphis is going to be as good next year, but they're not a team that you can sleep on.
Yeah, in
like
March,
I thought the Pelicans would be, but then we lost that one game against the Pelicans, so that was annoying last year.
In March, we have the Knicks on a second night of back-to-back after playing the Lakers, but they're both at home.
Okay. Well, we always lose to the Knicks anyway, so it doesn't matter. I'd rather have the games that we're probably going to lose anyway on back-to-backs. Is that dumb?
No.
What'd they say? November 3rd is Dario Saric Day? Yeah, we'll get to see former Nuggets legend Dario Saric when we play Sacramento on November 3rd.
We can do a video tribute to him.
We play Sacramento twice in November.
Yeah, when is Brooklyn
I saw
home
another
game?
one. Oh, good one. Good. Okay, it's the 29th of January. It's at the top of the second column.
Here it is. Oh, there it is. 29th of January. Mark it down.
Return.
That's going to be a big one. A lot of people are going to go to that.
When do we play Brooklyn on the road? Probably in...
Yeah, whenever it's before or after that.
A different East road trip. Is it part of... No, it's not part of that one with Indy.
Oh, it's January 4th.
Oh, okay. So the same month. Okay.
The beginning of the January, end of January.
Am I like blind? I don't see New Orleans on our schedule.
There's one in January at New Orleans.
Okay.
Where else? Yeah, we should talk about MPJ a little bit.
Oh, did you want to say something about one of the clips that he put out? Or that he went on one of these Milk Boys subsidiary podcasts?
It's just funny. I mean, Brooklyn has a lot of creators and media and, access to outlets that you can share your opinions on. And Mike's been putting out a ton of vlog content on his Curious Mike channel.
True.
Which he hadn't done before. I don't know why the move inspired him to do that necessarily, but you're in New York, you're in a new city. It's exciting. So put out some interesting content and joining a new team. I'm sure that's part of it, but I don't know. It's just whatever. MPJ was a great Nuggets legend, but it is nice to not have to worry about what he may or may not say on a podcast. And he's put out some interesting thoughts on religion and dating and women and all kinds of stuff that I didn't think he'd be talking about. Well, yeah, I say that facetiously.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, that's MPJ for you.
Oh, and gambling.
I did want to comment on the clip. Yeah, the clip of him talking about the gambling stuff. A lot of people were taking that and like I know Brick Center was running with it and being like he's told on himself, and I'm like, did you listen to the clip, dude? He's talking about how players get death threats because of parlays and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know the answer is that they didn't listen to the full clip because it was 2 minutes long. But yeah, he definitely has a lot of there. It's funny because like MPJ stuff was coming out and it's like, oh dude, right? And then you get the posts about the book about the superior man that Bilal Coulibaly and Rudy Gobert have been like promoting. I don't know, like I don't know what's going on there. A lot of weird stuff.
Yeah.
We do not endorse anything that any of these people say.
No. Snoozer said, did we talk about how we officially won the 76ers Nuggets rivalry week? Yeah, that was funny when they were trying to make us a rival.
Are they? I actually didn't send that graphic to you, but do you have the rivalry? Yeah. Rivals week.
It's so hard
rivalry
to say.
Week. It's because I say it in like the hardest way. I should just say rivals week, but rivalry week feels like it feels like a challenge. Okay, I will send this one to you. So they put this out today with Rivals Week, and the 76ers kind of left out. Let's see here, or at least not paired with Denver. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't really a rival on the court. It was so annoying. We were only rivals as fan bases in like the MVP debates, but I also wonder who the biggest rivalry is going to be for OKC as they continue into their like contender era.
I'm looking at this poster right now and I'm like, what is this?
Is it?
Wait, this is terrible.
Rivals Week is such a cool idea and then they always screw it up.
I feel like it was good last year. Like we liked the choices that they made, even though we had some better ones. We last year we decided to do our ranking of like the most cinematic rivalries, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was a tongue twister. Rivalries, right? Yeah.
Let's look at this.
But we liked the ones that they chose. This year, Cavs, Hornets. What the hell? What?
Why is that? What would that be?
I don't know. Okay, let's go through the ones that are good first, and then we can clown on these other ones. They got Lakers, Mavs, because you got the Luka stuff going on. That's like real. You could even say Warriors, Wolves is like okay, not because the teams have any like real rivalry.
Look how the Lakers have 3 rivals.
and none of them are the Celtics, which is odd.
The Celtics are.
I feel like they were just like, we have to have the Lakers 3 times and just pick some teams that can go here. But yeah, the Warriors Wolves, I don't think it has quite the rivalry juice necessary to be a good Rivals Week choice. But they do have the hatred between Draymond and Rudy, and that's like enough. I just don't know. Like, I would be fine with that. I don't know that that was their rationale. What are the other good ones that stand out? I feel like Thunder Pacers would be a good one if Hallie weren't out. because that was like a really good series.
Yeah. That was a good one.
Yeah, I agree
Luka
with
versus Shea more.
Luka versus Shea, I think would have been a great one. They're, going to be in contention to be like the best guard in the NBA.
It could be like an MVP battle between them, I could see.
Yeah.
Next season.
Let's see what else stands out as good here. They put Warriors Mavs on again for this. This is the Christmas Day matchup that didn't make any sense to me, and now it's also a Rivals Week thing. Just like, okay, whatever. Like, I don't even like what I can't even like manufacture a rivalry there. I don't know what it would be. Even like making something up.
Is D'Angelo Russell on the Mavs?
Yeah, D'Lo's gonna stick it to his former team. And then of course they try to shoehorn this Lakers Clippers Battle of LA on for us.
So annoying.
But yeah, there were some really bad ones on here. If we could pull that graphic back up again, please. Well, like we said, Cavs Hornets, what the hell? Like, no sense there. Thunder Bucks, these are the ESPN games too. Their only like known rival-ish interaction was in the NBA Cup final that didn't even count toward the regular season last year. So I don't know what that's about at all.
Also Rockets Pistons, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I got nothing for that one.
And Knicks Sixers.
Spurs Rockets, like, okay, they're in the same division and ... It's
the Texas battle. The Texas Bowl.
I mean, aren't there 4 teams in Texas? Is it just 3? It's 4, right?
There's
Spurs,
3.
Mavs. It's just 3.
The Rockets and Spurs are probably the best teams. I don't know. I don't know who's going to be better, Spurs or Mavs. I really don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know
Thompson Twins rivalry.
The other one that we missed
Rockets
is Denver
and
related.
Pistons. The Thompson Twins. I forgot about that.
But no, like there's no rivalry there, dude. They love each other, and those teams are lopsided. Hopefully not, though. Like, who knows how good Detroit's going to be this year? Maybe they take a leap as a team.
No, there was no Nuggets Clippers. The only one is Nuggets Lakers.
That's right. Nuggets Lakers. What do you feel about that one being on Rivals Week? Is that Denver?
It's still a rivalry.
It's going to be a good game, probably. Because even if Denver's way better, they're going to let it be a good game because that's just what they do, especially with the Lakers.
I think the Nuggets-Lakers rivalry could really even take off a little more than it was. We faced them in the playoffs. Nuggets fans don't like LeBron. They don't like the Lakers. But we were owning that matchup. It was never a huge problem. And the AD versus Jokic dynamic was always an interesting one. But now you have the Luka Jokic thing. And even though they are friends, I think it'll still be a good like rivalry between the two, really top European players in the NBA. And now that Luka's there and he's like solidified there, I want to beat them more. So,
yeah, I think they are a bit tougher for us because they have like another perimeter threat that we have to deal with that we probably don't have a great matchup for on this team. We have a chat from who said it? Snoozer, who says the Cavs Hornets rivalry becomes very obvious when you consider Colin Sexton. Of course. I had not thought about the fact that Colin Sexton's going to stick it to his former team. Sir Alpha says Luka MVP form versus SGA, who beat SGA in the playoffs. It makes no sense why they didn't put it. I think Luka's better than SGA still. I think it's a real question. And I agree with you. This absolutely should have been a rivalry in that sense. And even late last year, you saw like, okay, the Lakers with Luka are like a bit tougher of a matchup for the Thunder. I think it's because the Thunder's offense isn't good enough to take advantage of Luka's like heavy defensive deficiencies. But yeah, like that kind of stuff matters. And I think it would be, or would have been a good one. but here it is.
Well, yeah. Anything else on the Nuggets schedule or back-to-backs or anything of that nature?
I wanted to go back to the schedule one last time and just skim it for any baseball series, because on first glance, I didn't see any. We had 5 or 6 last year where you play the same team twice in a row, sometimes both on the road, sometimes both at home, sometimes a home and road.
Mix, yeah.
We had, what were some of them? I know Portland was one of them, I think at
San
home.
Antonio was one.
Memphis was one on the road. Yeah, San Antonio we did home and then on the road.
And
for
OKC
sure.
was one. Yeah,
OKC, which we lost that first one and then won the second night of the back-to-back. It's not always a back-to-back, by the way, but sometimes
I don't see any.
Dallas was another. That was the other thing. I don't see any
I liked
either.
Those.
You liked them. That was not what you said last summer when we were talking about the baseball series, Will. So you've been converted. Only in time for them to be ripped away. I think you were just like, I'm tired of these gimmicks.
That was like the only gimmick that I like kind of liked. I'm like kind of over the in-season tournament and all that, but
yeah, and they, especially if they're in the same place, they help reduce overall travel, which would have been nice.
I wonder if they got rid of it across the whole league or if it's just only for some teams or what.
I mean, I know last year some teams got more than others. I liked the idea of doing something rational to try to reduce travel. It just seemed to make sense. Like, it was just like, who's actually complaining about this kind of thing?
Yeah.
Back-to-backs.
Here, let me go.
I like this. Okay. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I forget what I was saying.
Something about back-to-backs.
So
easy. I was going to list the back-to-backs. So you can tell me what you think.
Oh, okay, sure.
So we got, I believe the first one is, let's look. I don't want to miss any. So it's Sacramento, and then at the Clippers.
Okay.
In November.
Whatever.
Then you got at Houston and then home Sacramento. So that's Sacramento in a back-to-back, not the second night, but then you got San Antonio and then Phoenix. Home versus San Antonio, then away in Phoenix.
Okay.
You got Jazz at home and then away at Mavs in December.
Okay.
You got the Nets away at Nets and then away Sixers.
Okay.
A lot of these back-to-backs are a little more spaced out than previous. Like I remember it'd be like, it felt like we had a back-to-back so much.
Those like 4 and 5s or like 7 and 9s kind of thing where it's like, oh, back-to-back. And then you get a day off and you play a game and then a day off and then you get another back-to-back again.
Yeah. Although here's one. So we got in January, which is after that huge long road trip that we just talked about. Once we come back from that, we have one game at home and then we have we have 2 home games. Then we have an away back-to-back. So we have at Pelicans and then at Mavs, and then 2 days in between of rest, and then another back-to-back, which is Wizards at home and Hornets at home.
Is that all of them?
No, that's just through January. Then you got at Wizards. I'm interested in. So the Wizards are involved in 2 back-to-backs right now, which is
so are Sacramento,
important.
Right?
Yeah, because we got to beat those Wizards. You know, like we need to crush them next year. We got in January at Washington, at Milwaukee on a back-to-back.
Okay, Milwaukee. So far, the Clippers and Milwaukee are the only playoff teams involved, like projected playoff teams involved in these back-to-backs. And Milwaukee is like substantially worse than the Clippers.
And then another
like they're a playoff team because they're in the East, basically.
We got another one where it's Brooklyn, that Mike's return game, and then that's a back-to-back. Second night at home is Clippers.
Okay, Clippers again.
Again.
Okay.
A lot of Clippers. And then in March, you got Wolves at home and away against the Jazz in Utah.
All right, that's annoying. But I was expecting to see another division team in there besides the Jazz. So, all right. So we got the Clippers twice as a playoff team. The Bucks are a playoff team, and the Wolves are a projected playoff team.
Then you got the Lakers, and then next night is Knicks. In March.
We should win that Lakers game and then be like,
Get
you know what?
By the Knicks.
Whatever. Yeah.
We'll see though. What else we got? At Phoenix and then home Dallas. And then
yeah.
I think that's
most of these are mid or bad teams. That's okay. Most of these are mid or bad teams, which makes me feel better. But like I said, I actually wouldn't have minded having, teams that were probably going to lose to on the back-to-backs anyway. But, who knows? Maybe Denver goes like they did last year and just kind of knock the back-to-backs out of the park.
Yeah.
Almost like they were rebelling against the idea that back-to-backs are, like it's hard. Like Elle Woods.
Girls Night, or Legally Blonde.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was a Malone thing. Malone, really, I felt like he prided himself on getting the team ready for back-to-backs. But
funny, because if that's the case, they were listening to him to play on the toughest conditions, but not against the Wizards.
I think Jokic prides himself on it too. He's just that way.
Yeah, that's true. The only back-to-backs they lost, I think, were that Rockets one, again, in terms of second nights of back-to-backs. They lost the Rockets one without Jokic, and then they lost, I think, 2 more with Jokic, later in the season when everybody, quit completely. But other than that, they were undefeated on second nights of back-to-back. So hopefully just do it again. Also, just be better so that you don't have to try as hard, even on back-to-backs, and then we'll be Gucci. The last thing I wanted to just kind of talk about was going on this website that I like to monitor throughout the year called Positive Residual that basically gives you your remaining every team's remaining strength of schedule for the rest of their season. And I like to watch it throughout the season to be like, oh, this team are trying to make the playoffs, but they have the hardest remaining strength of schedule amongst the other teams that they're fighting with in the standings, for example. But the other thing that they have is a way to track mileage traveled. Sorry, that is. And last year, Denver was toward not the top of the league, but probably the top third of the league in terms of total miles traveled. And that's just always going to be the case because they're flying to everywhere from Denver, which is not the most accessible. Probably them and OKC have, and Portland. Portland's always basically the top of the league in terms of miles traveled because they're so far away from everybody, especially the Eastern Conference teams. But I just wanted to see here. I'm just scrolling through to see where the Denver Nuggets sit in terms of miles traveled with their schedule this season. And it looks a little bit better than last year. They're more in the middle third, the upper part of the middle third, but not, the the end of it. I think they traveled, I had this open earlier, but it was closer to 50,000 total miles last year. Not quite, but up there. And this year they're traveling 44,500 miles in terms of air travel with their whole schedule, which is a lot. We don't talk about this enough, but I try to. So maybe you guys think Grace, you talk about this all the time. Travel is the worst thing for athlete health because it is so hard on your body. It makes it much more difficult to recover from injuries. And it makes you more susceptible to injury just because of all the impacts that air travel has on your body, how it messes with your sleep, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the kind of thing that I actually do want to pay attention to. You can make a lot of different excuses for teams, but and call them excuses, but I do think that travel is a big part of not just performance, but just body maintenance for athletes. So good to see Denver's not in the top here. Let me just see the team with the top this year. It's not the Portland Trailblazers. And it won't surprise you once you hear it, but it is kind of surprising because of all the teams that are close to them, or close enough. It's the Orlando Magic.
Mm-hmm.
My Orlando Magic are traveling the most miles in the league this year with well over 50,000. Let me just refresh this so I can see. 53,000 miles they're going to travel, and then Portland is second. So the two teams on the opposite corners of the country. I just didn't expect Orlando to be that high because even though they're on the opposite corner from like a lot of the West teams and whatever, exactly, they're a lot closer to their East Coast counterparts than Portland is to their West Coast counterparts. And especially when you look at that Southeast division of all those like bad teams plus Orlando and Miami, let's be fair or whatever. Those teams are terrible, and they get the reward of being pretty close to each other relative to most divisions outside of the Atlantic. So,
yeah. Because even being that far down south, you have the Heat in the same state. Portland doesn't have another team as close as Miami, I don't think. Unless it's like Sacramento.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
They don't. They will if they add Seattle.
Yeah.
But
someday.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe not.
All right, so that was my my last thing that I was going to look at with the schedule for now before I get to do my deep dive off the show so I can share my findings with the audience. Will, is there anything else that is interesting to you about what we talked about with the schedule today, or that you want to know when we have more time to deep dive into the schedule?
I think we looked at a lot of what I'm most interested in, like the big matchups, big dates, back-to-backs. I didn't look up like months or stretches that are going to be super easy versus very difficult. Obviously that road trip might be tough, but yeah, if you look at positive residual and look at strength of schedule and it fluctuates throughout the season, we usually have a very easy schedule because we play in altitude and positive residual.
We talked about that with Matt last year.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, Matt Moore, was like, they overweight altitude. And I was like, but what if we're not valuing altitude enough? Then last season happens and I'm like, all right, they were overweighting altitude. Altitude can't save you. But you know what? If Denver's like I wonder if it's one of those things where if you're a good team, like Denver has been in previous years, before this last season when they were miserable as all hell, like a great team, can altitude sort of augment that advantage, but they can't like save you if you don't want to try, kind of thing. So like this year, we might see that home court advantage come back in like roaring compared to last year. That'd be great.
I really
just because the guys are trying again.
Yeah. That was always like something we could count on, and it was so weird to see it dissipate last season, but I think we'll be okay. I think it's going to come back. This is the road to the championship has been revealed.
Yeah, agreed. Spark notes. I'm looking for a different article. Anyway, let's do our last segment here, Will. We are sneak drafting our stats of interest for next season.
Yes. Let me set this up.
So I'll just explain this while you're setting this up. I'll give some examples that neither of us can use also. So the way this is going to work is Will and I are going to go through and list the statistics that we are looking at the most for next season, basically, and we're going to draft them. So, for example, you can't say, because I'm going to use this as the example, Jokic points, like Jokic total points could be one. You have to list the player, or it could be a team stat. So you just say the player that you're looking at the stat for, or the team, and the stat, and then you just kind of talk about why it is that you think that that's going to be an important thing to track over the course of the season. How many
do you want to pick?
Do I want to pick what?
How many stats do you want to pick total?
Oh, we're just going to do 5 each.
Cool. That's what I put.
We can do more if you want, but
no.
I don't know that the people are that nerdy today.
All right, go ahead with your first pick.
You want me to go first? Okay, my number 1 overall pick here. I actually don't think you're going to take any of mine, so I'm not really worried.
No.
Jamal games played. I think that the most important thing that Jamal Murray can do for this team is stay on the floor, be healthy, be, able to contribute to the team on the floor throughout the season. Even if he's going to be, worst of all time for him, right, by his standard, like he started off last season, it's better than when he's off the floor. Just puts more pressure on other players to have to fulfill that role. Whether he's, doing it at a high level or not. I really do think that 2 years ago, we saw, even if you think bubble Jamal was the best version of Jamal, I think of the 2023-24 regular season as his sort of second peak, because he was a great playmaker. He was efficient scoring, even if it wasn't always in volume. And when he was on the floor, he was providing a lot of impact for the team, even in games where he didn't have a super impressive box score. The main problem that season with him was he kept getting injured throughout the year, and the team really struggled in those stretches. So that's going to be my big one, is Jamal games played next year.
Okay. I might go with Jamal effective field goal percentage.
Interesting. Okay. Explain yourself.
I just know that he's going to have to be a really effective player for us. And I didn't know if I could include 3-point attempt and 3-point percentage into one. Okay. Well,
okay. I see.
So I was like,
no, those are 2 different things, Will. You got to draft 2 different things.
So that's why I'm just going to go with effective field goal percentage, because it'll because it puts in his 3-point, it puts in his 2-point mid range, and it weighs it all out. And he's going to have to be efficient, and his shot's going to have to be on for us to have the title hopes that we dream of. He's going to have to have a big season, and that's going to be one. He's always a pretty good shooter. And I do want to monitor his 3-point attempts, because I've always wanted them to go up a little bit versus the mid range, but I don't know that he's ever going to change that at this point. And he is a tough shot maker, but I want more consistency in the season, and I don't want to see, lower percentages for his shot as we go through the regular season.
I was looking this up because I thought you brought this up because he'd fluctuated in his career. But for the last 4 seasons that he's been on the floor, so excluding the 21-22 season, he's hovered between 53.7 and 55.9 effective field goal percentage every year since. Last year he was 54.3, for example. And then pre-bubble, he was more around 50, 51, 52. So big leap after that, after the bubble. Pretty sizable bump, but then not pretty much plateaued there. Yeah.
If he stays at that level, because like I said, his shot is always pretty good. I feel like some fans think of him as he's not as streaky as MPJ. He's so much more solid. But I just want to make sure that he's really efficient and is having one of the better years of his career. And I hope he gets back.
You know what year he peaked in terms of 3-point attempts per game?
Was it 20? I don't know. 22?
It's actually tied. Between, you mean 23?
Yeah.
He wasn't there in 22.
I meant, yeah.
It was 2023 tied with 2021 at 6.6 attempts per game. It's gone down over an attempt or not over an attempt, but almost an attempt per game in the 2 seasons since the title, which is interesting because he's been playing more minutes. So that's also when he had to take on a lot more on-ball responsibility, to be fair. So if I dug into these numbers deeper, I'd probably find that it was his catch and shoot attempts that went down in those seasons compared to the pull-up attempts, but he also doesn't take enough pull-up threes for either of our tastes, right? So not really an excuse, but that's definitely, something to consider. So I think that's a fine stat, especially you think about it. A lot of the reason his efficiency is kind of like good but middling is that he doesn't take enough threes relative to pull-up twos. So if he did take more pull-up threes, maybe his effective field goal percentage just goes up because he's taking more efficient jump shots than he has in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So. All right, since we're doing the sneak draft style, you get another guess here, or another pick.
I'm gonna go CB 3-point shot quality.
Interesting. So they actually, cleaning the glass does have a shot quality metric where they give you kind of like the expected, but it's usually like total effective field goal percentage. I don't know if they have one specifically for 3-point shots, but you basically want to know what the expected shot quality is for Christian's looks.
Yeah, and I want to know how open they are all the time. Basically,
okay.
Is more of what I was thinking.
They're going to be pretty open.
Yeah, I would love to see the open shots go down because I'm hoping teams might start respecting his shot a little more if he's shooting the ball well from there. Yeah, Red and White said his 3-point attempts and 3-point percentage. That, the 3-point percentage, I was even thinking about putting that on in addition to this. And I'm just thinking of this on the fly. I didn't write this down ahead of time, but yeah, like if he's just wide open on all his shots and they're never closing out to him and the spacing's still an issue with him in the starting lineup, that's a concern, but I'm hoping that things improve in that regard.
Yours just gave me an idea, but I'm not going to use it. I'll talk about it as an honorable mention because it's not really a stat.
Okay.
All right. My next pick is going to be Denver opponent turnover percentage. Because turnover percentage has been a more useful indicator over the last couple of years of a team's defensive rank, with some exceptions, some notable exceptions. Like last year, the Celtics were they were probably the only team, I'm pretty sure, in the top 10 defensively that were bottom 10 in forcing turnovers. Denver was bottom 10 in forcing turnovers, but also bottom 10 in defense. So we weren't doing much of anything to be particularly proud of on that end in the regular season. But if you think about the kinds of schemes that a lot of people think that David Adelman and Jared Dudley are going to want to employ in terms of the defense, more zone, more press, that even if you're not like constantly blitzing necessarily, it's another way to apply pressure on the opposing offense, another way to force turnovers. I would like to see that number go up. And if nothing else, I definitely don't want to see it go down, because one of the things that we lost when Russell Westbrook decided, and Denver, let's say there was a mutual decision not to continue that relationship, is Russ's steal rate. And he had he was generating a lot of steals for the team in his minutes, of course, also generating a lot of turnovers, but we don't need to talk about that. Mostly looking at the opponent turnovers here, I don't want to see that go down because Denver was already I think 24th in that stat. It's really hard to win the possession game if you're not generating extra possessions in that way. So that is going to be one that I'm going to be watching throughout the year. Because it's like, if you guys are playing a lot of zone, like say the Miami Heat, and pressing Indiana too, and you're not generating turnovers, it's kind of like, are you executing the coverage right? Like, what is the point of what you're doing? Are you guys just kind of standing around here, like, going zone,
Is there any chance that trying to increase the turnover rate could lead to too many gambles that we're not able to execute well enough and giving up too many open buckets, and then
Well, yeah, that's the reason that you don't do it. But it's also, like I said, in terms of winning the math here, in terms of possessions, if you're not generating extra possessions with turnovers, you got to do it through like offensive rebounding, for example. And Denver is already a really good offensive rebounding team. There's not much that they can do to improve more on that end. Although I say that, and lots of teams sort of augment the advantage that they already have, like last year when the Thunder added Alex Caruso to become an even better turnover forcing team, right? Or when the Rockets, get Steven Adams like fully healthy for a season and they add to their offensive rebounding ability. Maybe Denver does augment their offensive rebounding advantage by having, Jonas playing, especially in those non-Jokic minutes, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm primarily concerned with the defense. And I think, frankly, for the schemes that Denver wants to employ, like if I thought that Denver was going to be playing drop most of the time, I wouldn't care about this because it's not really relevant to the scheme that they're employing. But I know they're not going to do that because of what they tried at the end of the year. And it's just not really like a thing. Drop in particular is not a thing that they do. They like to employ aggressive and semi-aggressive coverages. And if you're not generating turnovers, I question whether those are the schemes for you, because it's kind of like part of the goal of those schemes too, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, was a great recipe for OKC, and other teams may start to try to implement that to give themselves more of a chance. All right, you have the next pick as well.
I'm going to go with Peyton Watson defensive rating. And the reason you don't go with individual player defensive ratings, it's not really like a useful statistic in any like serious sense. But when you have really impactful defensive players, especially relative to the other players on the floor, you want to see that impact manifesting itself in the overall team defense on the floor. Peyton Watson did not have that last year, even in the regular season, where I thought he was better overall than he was in the playoffs. And so it's more like Peyton's defensive on-off is something I'd like to see be positive instead of negative. So even if he is playing more with bench lineups, I want to see those bench lineups be better. I want to see like, okay, this translates into an actual tangible defensive difference for the team on the floor. And part of that is not just, him using his tools in one-on-one situations, but becoming a better team defender, staying more disciplined in the way that he uses those tools, et cetera, et cetera. But
nice. Yeah. That's a good one. That's one I could have picked for sure. And I might do another Pwat one. Who knows? Okay, I'm gonna go with. Trying to think of. I'm just gonna do starting 5, like lineup minutes. I'll just do starting 5 minutes.
Okay.
And just see how much we're relying on our starting 5, like because classically we've, they're one of the most played units in the league as far as lineups. And so I think that's going to change. I think we're going to have more variance in lineups we're playing and with the depth added. And I think this will indicate, Jokic's minutes, Jamal's minutes, AG's minutes as well, and hope that they're, not being relied on too much to where they can get injured. If you believe that the more you play, you're more susceptible to injury, which the NBA disputes. But I think we all want to see them having to play less in the regular season so they're fresh for the playoffs. And we want to see the bench units not be so unreliable that we have to get that starting 5 back in because it's the only competent lineup. And I think we're going to see that plummet much more than before. So I think that'll be a good thing for the team.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think Vyacheslav, I've heard this from a lot of people. We need to actually see it in practice. I don't think, besides going zone sometimes, that there's a ton of evidence for that. Like, I actually think the offense was more stagnant in these playoffs than in past years, but there's a variety of reasons for that. So I'm not going to put it necessarily on coaching. But yeah, we're gonna see what ends up being the case.
But I think from what he said, he seems to have the right idea about it. But yeah, you have to actually see how it works.
His idea is what he's said is we're not changing our schemes because we don't have to. What we need to do is improve our execution of those schemes. So I don't.
Well, yeah.
I think that everybody's kind of choosing to hear what they want to hear from Adelman, and we need to actually see it on the floor before we project forward what it's going to be.
He did say he's not necessarily going to stick with guys just because of their reputation or their veteran status, and he was willing to close with different people or not close with Mike. I know we did that in the championship year, but supposedly he was. Well, Malone was a little bit less willing, which was something people
complained about, by the way. It's why don't you trust Mike more? So,
yeah, that's true.
I don't know. It's kind of I don't know. I don't think that there's... Let's actually see a full season of this instead of 3 regular season games and then get thrown into the playoff fire and try to extrapolate from a small sample size.
Well, he definitely has more to work with than...
Absolutely.
You think. So that's another reason.
That's true.
So hopefully
he will do more different things because he does have more to work with. So just at baseline.
And Malone probably would have too, to be fair.
To your point about the starting five's minutes, by the way, in the title year, the starting five played 1,500 or just under 1,500 possessions together. In 23-24, when we didn't have Bruce anymore to be that kind of 6-starter spark plug guy, but obviously we had more like Reggie Jackson, Justin Holiday, Julian and Peyton were playing roles in the lineup as well. They had played 1,900 minutes together as the starting five. This past season, it was only less than 900, not minutes, possessions, I should say. But that was largely because of AG's injuries. So if I were to sort of project out, based on AG missing... a lot of that is just because AG was out.
Wasn't there, yeah.
Then it ends up being closer to that 1,400 to 1,500 minutes mark that they had in the title year, actually. Which is interesting because we did not have the kind of reliable guys that you could slot in.
Yeah.
In that sense. Although Russ was basically just that dude. He basically did what Bruce did in that year and just kind of filled in whenever anybody was out.
To the point where people were debating keeping him in the starting five. Now he's not even on the team.
And then complaining about that too.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's an interesting one because it tells you more about... Hopefully it tells you less about injuries. We're just going to assume that there's no major injuries in the starting lineup throughout the season. And then it could just tell you more about the lineup versatility that we have acquired, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so I got one more to pick before your next one. I'm going to do Cam Johnson.
You're in the wrong column.
Why do I keep doing that? All right. Cam Johnson games played for me.
I like that.
Because, if it's not where we need it to be, we're going to be struggling more than I want. And he is important to the team and his role with the 3-point shot. He needs to bring that. And although I'm excited for him and he doesn't have as much pressure as some other guys on the team, that is a skill set that needs to be there night in and night out. And if he's missing games or only playing 60 games a season or whatever, people are going to start getting panicked. So... I trust in Cam and I'm so excited to watch him, but it's a thing and I don't want to have to worry about it anymore. So I want to see the games played number be solid, and we won't know until the regular season's done. So we have a ways to go on that, but hopefully the number is high. He should be able to play a lot of games too. And he's older than Mike, or Mike is older. Who's older?
He's older. Cam's older.
Yeah, but he's not too old yet, so it should be able to.
Yeah. Ooh, it's also important for his potential contract extension, whether they do it this summer. I'm starting to think they're not going to extend Cam this summer, by the way. We've been talking kind of on and off about whether Christian or Peyton was going to happen. Maybe it's one of those things wouldn't do it before they do, or like figure out the Christian and Peyton stuff. But the longer that goes on, the more I think they're just going to figure out Cam next year, which I don't love. Because I do think he's going to outplay his current contract. So I'd rather extend him off of this number than extend him off of another season where he's like, you know what? I'm just going to go to unrestricted free agency and make you guys have to pay me even more the following year.
Yeah, we should just do it. I just think the sooner the better sometimes when you trade for these guys. If you like believe in them, which I'm pretty sure we do.
Especially if you spent like valuable assets to get him. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Okay, my next stat is going to be DaRon Holmes minutes per game. Because if he's only playing garbage time, he's not going to break like 7 or 8 minutes per game. But if he's playing the rotation, he probably cracks 10. And he can play in the rotation with people healthy or not. Because like I said, I've said on the show before, our power forward depth is sorely lacking. And the other reason that I bring this up is that because Peyton Watson it has a lot more competition on the wing this year, he's really going to be fighting in terms of getting like substantial minutes. He's probably going to be fighting more to get minutes at the 4, minutes at power forward. And maybe not fighting because his competition is DaRon, who is a rookie coming off an Achilles, and Zeke Naji. But hopefully fighting some with DaRon for that spot whenever we want to get a little bit bigger in some lineups, and just have, you know, another body out there, get DaRon some runs, see how he can figure into lineups as a stretch 4 and things like that. And so I would like to see DaRon playing more than 7 minutes a game, which implies that he's playing more than just garbage time. Yeah.
I can't wait to see it too. I hope he plays. Like I want him to be a contributor. I don't want him to be rookie player who just struggling to find time, because I think should he be healthy and able to move freely and not be mentally limited by, you know, coming back from this injury, which is understandable, I think he has the potential to really like show something, and I'm excited to see him play and develop. So, but yeah, like what can you do? Like rookies sometimes don't get playing time, and they're new and they're fresh, and
especially when they're coming off of a year-long injury, right?
And the Achilles
it's not going to be easy.
That's a trippy injury to get over.
I do think that there will come a point in the season where if they haven't figured out a way to integrate him into the rotation, they're just going to send him to the G League so that he can keep getting reps. Right?
Yeah, that's
because he hasn't really had that opportunity, and it's probably more important for him now than ever to get reps under his belt, regardless of whether they're with the main team or with the G League, because he just needs to, like, you know, get his wind and, you know, figure out how to, you know, fit in the system. And he didn't get to do that last year, obviously, because of the injury. At least when Peyton wasn't playing with the main team his rookie year, he was off with the G League. With the Grand Rapids Gold in that, trying to, you know, do all the things I just said. Yeah, so I expect DaRon to get reps in some way, but I want to see him do it, obviously, with the main team. All right, my last stat here. What is going to be most important to Denver's title odds, or just general upside, or agendas, all right, I'm gonna go with Cam Johnson assists per game, because even though he has not been a high assist guy basically anywhere, like he's been a like definitively low assist guy, even though he has more assists per game than MPJ. I just think our team is like the best passing offense that he's ever played in, because there others were like the Suns, and then obviously the Nets were not that. And he's going to be a good connective passer within our system. So I think he's going to probably get closer to kind of what like AG averages, which is, I think, let's see, last year, Aaron Gordon, I think it was just under 4 assists per game. Looking for his name on this roster here. And further away from like MPJ is like 2 assists per game. So AG, okay, last year was not a great one for AG. Actually, it was more like 2.7. The year before he was at 4.4. So AG actually averages fewer assists than I thought. He averages more than MPJ, but it's only by like half an assist per game, which is interesting. To be fair, though, he doesn't touch the ball nearly as much as MPJ does, and obviously MPJ, shoots it a lot of the time. So I think that Cam is going to touch the ball as much as MPJ and get closer to like AG's assist rate, which I think is going to translate to something closer to like 4 assists per game. And so, that's my conjecture, my hypothesis. We'll see what comes of it in next season.
I'm excited for that one for sure. I just think that'll be a different kind of dynamic in the Nuggets, like starting 5 that you think about that hasn't really been there before. So it's definitely, and like it's, AG has the ability to facilitate. Like I like his passing game. It's just, he doesn't get the opportunity as much, which you kind of understand. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, so yours is complete.
Yeah.
I'll pick my last one, and then you can. It's going to involve Pwat and something about offense.
Okay.
I don't know.
I had a good one, but it was last year. Kind of spoiled it.
Oh. About
like
Pwat?
Related to Pwat in offense, yeah.
I can't decide if I want to like what aspect I want to go with. I just want to go with overall like points per game, or like specifically rim finishing, or like a 3-point thing. But I guess I'll just do Pwat rim finishing, because at least he can be somewhat impactful if he just finishes dunks, or he's not going for like a one-hand tomahawk dunk and actually just prioritizes putting the ball in the basket. And that's a way to just make an impact on offense where he already struggles to do so. And it's just like weird that he's not able to do it. Like that should be something you should easily improve on. If that's not improving, that's probably a really bad sign. 3-point shot, it's like it was 35%, I think, last season. It's not horrible, but could be a lot better. But you kind of understand someone struggling from 3, or like it's not a sniper from 3 when you're still young, and maybe that's not your archetype as a player. Like role players are forced into the 3-and-D archetype for sure, because it's the easiest way to like fit in, but sometimes you don't work out that way, and this is something that he should be able to add to his game at least.
Yes, I agree. This was exactly what I was thinking about saying for this, for Pwat's offense. But last year, and you and I talked about it, Will, Pwat was finishing layups at like 80% through maybe half the season, like early January. And we were like, this feels like an accident. And then it fell precipitously.
It wasn't like CB where it was crazy and then it just stayed crazy.
Right. And also like CB was like, these are like strong finishes. With Payton's, it literally felt like an accident when the ball went in. So I would like to like my answer for this, if I were modifying it in like a hypothetical like redo of this, because it's not really a stat, is like my vibes when I watch Payton go up for a dunk or a layup. That's
your
the
internal
stat.
confidence.
It's like how I feel. Yeah, in that moment.
I think he'll probably turn that around, but
yes,
who knows?
Hopefully. All right. Well, for everybody that's made it this far in the stream, you guys are real ones. I did not think that this would go this long. Especially because we
had to kind of like suss through the schedule. We couldn't like prepare like our main points about the schedule, so we kind of had to like dig through it on the fly.
Yeah, and we'll have more to talk about on the schedule for sure in subsequent shows. Yeah, but for everybody that's made it this far, we appreciate the hell out of you guys. Like, you guys are the real nerds here. We got Vyacheslav still hanging out in the chat for sure. If you'd like our content, please remember to click the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. Remember to leave us a review if you're listening on audio on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. This episode is going to drop a little bit later, but it's fine. The schedule will still be the schedule next week. It'll be fine, guys. Follow us on social media. All our social links are in the description: Instagram, TikTok, etc., etc. And always remember that winning is fun and losing absolutely sucks, especially losing national TV games. Although
you won't even remember what losing is like.
Stayed the same.